Hello, hi, how are you? I hope you are all doing great and your revision finally completed. So today morning started with a very positive message. One of the candidates sent appreciating the hard work, appreciating the notes. So first, the second good news I got that finally we have reached 2,500 families on YouTube, and then in that happiness, I thought to share 2024 shift 1, shift 2 combined from both shifts match logic questions with explanation. So I shared that too on Telegram. So if any of you have missed, have not joined the Telegram channel, go and practice last. So thank you so much for your all love and support, your gestures, your sweetness. It's really like sweet honey. Honey is already sweet, but your positive, your motivational thoughts and your messages, it's like a sweeter than honey. So thank you so much, everybody. We need to grow a lot, so there are a lot to come. It is said like success becomes sweeter when you share with others. So I'm sharing with you all. So today is the final day for the revision. Now let's get back to the class. And the remaining topic, we cannot say the remaining topic everything is completed. You have done, and from here there everywhere there is nothing. It's not like if I have not uploaded the class, you will not going to practice. So it's not like that. Okay, I know, but still, the one who are associated and the one who are loyal, I am following their request majorly. Even if channel the videos are not getting views, but still, just one or two requests I got, I make the videos, because though their concern and their suggestion, their request matters to me. Okay, so Indian literature and world literature. So world literature covers all. British we have already done. Previous classes you can also watch. So I have taken my Nibu Pani here, and because this class is going to be longer, you'll all have to watch, stick it to the screen. We will practice everything. I will show you the PYQs. I will show you the some important chronology questions from the previous year exams. So in world literature, we will try to cover the specific that each time the from the PYQs NTA ask. Okay, so stay tuned. And if any of you are new to the channel, subscribe, share to all the English literature students for their last moment help, and you can take it anyhow. It's going to be your mock test, your final practice, your revision class, or you can wait for the answer, but you have to watch. Okay, so let's start the class. Thank you so much for joining. Now I don't need to tell the timing, and tomorrow everybody do please join the live class where we will discuss. We have a small family, not like the others, but still we have some. So we will discuss, and we will make fun of NTA too. Okay, how we are going to release our stress. So of course, so let's start the class now. Jokes apart, this is going to be one short revision for all. Okay, so we will start with Indian Dalit writers matchology questions. Okay, memory based question will be a lot and time taking, and you will get one writer and one work at a time. But when you will solve, why I brought matchology questions, matching and chronology, because there are so many works and so many writers. So we will get clear about the writer, so many works, so many writers, so many concepts, so many themes, and along with the year. Okay, so that's why this is one short trick that I use at the end. If you know, you can comment the answer, but if you don't know, you can wait. So arrange the following landmark Dalit autobiographies in the correct chronological order of their original publication. Jutan, Om Prakash Valmiki. Remember, last moment I want let you wait for the any writers publications, but there will be mentioned. So that's why I have kept that in mind and I have prepared the notes accordingly. Jutan is by Om Prakash Valmiki, Baluta by Daya Pawar, Akar Mashi Sharan Kumar Limble, and Karuku by Bama. You have to arrange Dalit autobiographies in correct chronological order of their original publications. Okay. जूठन बलूता अकारमशी करुकू जूठन ओम प्रकाश वाल्मीकि बलूता दया पवार अकारमशी शरण कुमार लिम्बले मराठा देयार ओके करुकू बाय बामा क्विकली majorly the Dalit literature, Dalit writer focuses on mostly autobiographies and biographies works because it all the works in Dalit literature highlights their own personal experience they have faced in real. Okay, so majorly correct answer will be one. Okay, Baluta. It is 1978. Remember the year. Karuku 1992, Jothan 1997, and Akar Mashi 2000. So you can put in chronology. First will be Baluta 1978, 1992, Juthan 1997, and Akarvashi 2000. Okay. Now, next question, you have arranged these foundational poetry collections by Marathi Dalit poets in the correct chronological sequence. Gol Pitha by Namdev Dasal, remember, very important. Faryad by Hira Bansode. Utkhanan, J.V. Pawar, and Amhi Khaptoish by Arjun Dangle. Sorry, the name is true. Gol Pitha, Faryad, Utkhanan, and Amhi. Options. Even today I want to skip the options, even whatever the options is, but you just let your what your instinction and your feeling is saying, just comment that what would be the correct answer if you know. Sometimes we get questions from Punjabi writers also, um, Telugu writers also, Tamil writers also, Bengali writers we get a lot. Okay. So correct answer will be A, C, B, and D. Golpitha 1972, Golpitha, and just after you have 6 years, Baluta. Okay, so this is how you can relate. Golpitha 1972, Utkhana 1978. So 1978 match na Baluta. Okay, remember. Amhi Kaptoich 1978, the same, but it will be first obviously, and Faryad 1984. 1984, the Bhopal gas tragedy. Now you have to identify the correct chronological sequence of the publication of these prominent Dalit novels. You have Changia Rukh, Balbir, Kochrethi, The Aryan Woman by Narayan, Government Brahman by Arvind Malgatti, and Untouchable Spring by G. Kalyan Rao. This is important. Options. We cannot predict that how the paper will be, but if paper 1 is moderate, you can imagine paper 2 is might be tough because many of the candidates are saying that paper 1 is moderate. Many multiple students have said. So you can imagine what could be the condition of paper 1. Sorry, paper 2. Correct answer we have option B, C, D, A. The first will be you have to Kocha Rethi 1998, Government Brahmana 2000, Untouchable Spring 2000, and Changya Rukh 2002. So this is the correct chronology of all these works. Remember with the writer. Next question we have to arrange the following Hindi Dalit plays drama in their correct chronological order, and you have a Court Martial by Swadesh Deepak, Mahabrahmana by Achut Anand. We have Chappar by Jaiprakash Kardam and Shraman by Niranjan Pasi. These writers can boost your score. Court Martial, Mahabrahmana, Chappar, and Shraman. So we have option 1 will be the correct answer. Mahabrahmana 1931, Court Martial 1991, Chhappar is adapted and published as fiction drama in 1994. Okay, remember. Now, next question you have to trace the correct chronological order of these critical texts written on Dalit aesthetic and literature. It's very important. Towards an aesthetic of Dalit literature by Sharan Kumar Limble, दलित साहित्य का सुंदर या शास्त्र by Om Prakash Valmiki, Dalit literature global context Narendra Jadhav, and Indian Dalit literature quest for identity by Prabhakar. This is the very important one and always asked by NTA. Dalit literature is also Narendra Jadhav. Options. So correct answer of this question will be option A, B. The first will be correct. Okay, so the first will be correct. Started with 2000. Then you have a B. Then you have to put here D, and the last one will be C, 2001. Okay, let's see the next question. Next question, you have a sequence the following works of a fiction based on manual scavenging on Dalit labor struggles. So you have Untouchable, very important, The Scavenger Son. It is by Shiva Shankar Pillai. Kuli by Mulkraj Anand, and The Prisons We Broke by Baby Kamble. Okay. Options. Many of the work are known to you. Untouchable by Mulkraj Anand. Remember everything about this. Untouchable, rejected by 90 publishers initially when he wanted to publish. Then later, E.M. Foster became savior and allowed the publishers to publish the work. Remember all the important characters: Bakha, Lakha, the sister you have Sohini, Pandit Kalinath, The Scavenger's Son, Kuli. It is also by Mulkraj Anand. Remember here, Munnu is the center character, okay? And The Prison We Broke, it is a very important and repeated work in Dalit literature. So Mulkraj Anand in chronology 1935, Kuli again 1936. We can put The Scavenger's Son, it is by Shiva Shankar Pillai, and Prisons We Broke, it was in 1986, okay? And this one, so if we will put 1935, 1936, first, second, and this one will the last. D. So C option A will be the correct answer. Okay. Remember all the year here. Scavenger's one is 1947. Okay. The year we got the freedom. Next question we have. There are a few important facts that you must know about Dalit literature. Okay. So let me highlight all that. Dalit literary movement, it was started with Dalit Panthers movement 1972. Remember, 1972 is the year Dalit literature, Dalit movement started, and it was formed in Maharashtra. Okay, so that's why there are so many Marathi writers involved here. It was this Dalit Panther movement was inspired by the Black Panther movement of the USA. We have studied about the Black Panther movement. Okay, which is based on the racism. So Black Panther movement of the USA, Dalit Panther movement is inspired. And 1972, remember the year, it is a foundation year in Maharashtra. And who are the founders? Founders, the questions you can get. So Namdev Dhasal, J.V. Pawar, and there are others. One important writer you have to remember, Namdev Dhasal, J.V. Pawar, and one another writer, I will tell you. And what was the objectives of these writers? To fight caste oppression through the literature and activism. They wanted to tell their feeling. They wanted to tell how they feel when somebody humiliates you. Okay, so it is mostly you can find in the work Marathi, but later it is inspired the whole nation. And you are going to find all these writers in the Punjabi, Tamil, Telugu, like every region. Now the first and very important, you cannot miss, इनके works definitely chronology में आते हैं. So major we have Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. B.R. Ambedkar's major important work, Annihilation of Caste, 1936. 1936 is the year you just solved the question of Mulkraj Anand Schoolie. Okay, Mulkraj Anand Schoolie, 1936. The character you have Munu. So Annihilation of Caste, 1936. Who were the Shudras? 1946, before 1 year of independence. 1946, the Untouchables. 1948. Untouchable is the only work by Mulk Raj Anand, and this is the Untouchable, the Untouchable. So it is 1948, after the independence by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Okay. You want to understand the question, so I thought that I should revise you the work first that we majorly get. Future of parliamentary democracy 1953. Remember everyone, बहुत chronology में majorly इनके works आ जाते हैं. So future of parliamentary democracy, parliamentary 53. Remember 53, the year of waiting for Godot and attendant Godot. You can relate the year and the writer. एक से बहुत सारी चीजें learn हो जाएगी. The Buddha and his Dhamma 1957. So chronologically, the first you will have annihilation of caste, who were the Shudra, and one important work you have. 1 second. If any of you remember, I am forgetting there is one important work of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar related to its coin. In the title, you are going to find the word coin, and it was before that. Okay. So remember, annihilation of caste 1936, who was Shudra 46. After 10 years, you can plus, and you can remember the year with Mulk Raj Anand Schooling. 1946, 1948, untouchable. The Untouchable, Future of Parliamentary Democracy 53, Buddha and his Dhamma 1957. And majorly theme that he explored in his work, social reforms, caste discrimination, Buddhism, Indian Constitution. We know everything about B.R. Ambedkar. Now, Om Prakash Valmiki. So Om Prakash Valmiki's Jhutan, a Dalit's Life 1997 is a very important work for the exam. Majorly autobiography, caste oppression and Dalit identity he has also explored. So Jhutan is, remember, 1997. Okay, 1997. Daya Pawar we have, Daya Pawar, Marathi, the work you have, Baluta 1978. 1978, Baluta, also autobiographical work, Dalit narrative and urban caste struggle. Then you have Raja Dhale. Okay, Raja Dhale, remember the full name Raja Ram Piraji Dhale, one of the co-founders along with Namdev Dhasal and J.B. Pawar, but later he excluded his names. Okay, so that's why Namdev Dhasal and J.B. Pawar majorly we found. And the third I was talking about is Raja Dhale, foundation of Dalit Panther. So the J.B. Pawar of the movement Dalit Panthers. Raja Dhale was co-founder of Dalit Panthers 1972. Here you have to remember Kala Swatantriya Din. Okay, Black Independence Day 1972. Kala Swatantriya Din, Black Independence Day is by Raja Dhale. Namdev Dhasal, Gol Pitha is the very important work, 1972, the same year of Dalit Panthers Movement Foundation. Okay, Murkh and Murkh Mahatrain 2003. Then you have Raj Gautam from the Tamil literature. So you have to remember Dalit history, culture, politics, and subaltern studies. Majorly, you are going to find here. And Tamil Dalit intellectual tradition he has talked about in the work. G. Kalyan Rao, very important work. You have Untouchable Spring 2000. You have now three untouchable work. One untouchable by Mulk Raj Anand 1935. Remember. Second, you have The Untouchable 1938 by B.R. Ambedkar, and Untouchable Spring. It is by G. Kalyan Rao, Telugu writer, in 2000. Okay. So 1935. 1948 and 2000. So it is Telugu, and this is Mulk Raj Anand, and this one is B.R. Ambedkar. Ravi Kumar from Tamil, ये venomous touch ही वर्क आया था आपका 2009. Oxford, he was the editor of the Oxford Indian Anthology of Tamil Dalit Writing. Okay, so remember the work Venomous Touch. Now Sharan Kumar Limble, very important, from the Maratha. A Karmashi, that means the outcast, 2003 is the very important work. Towards an Aesthetic Dalit of Literature 2004. These two works by Sharan Kumar Limble. Towards an Aesthetic of Dalit Literature. Here he has talked about the three Satyam, Shivam, Sundaram. Okay, so Akar Mashi 2003 and Towards an Aesthetic of Dalit Literature 2004 plus one. You can remember Sharan Kumar Limble. Sharan Kumar Limble, Maratha. Sometimes they will ask you to match these writers with their origin. So Marathi, Maharashtra, they will give you Tamil, Punjabi. So ऐसे भी questions आते हैं. कांचा इलाइया शेफर्ड, ये एक पेपर में बहुत कंफ्यूजिंग था. कांचा इलाइया शेफर्ड, इंग्लिश एंड तेलुगु इन बोथ लैंग्वेज written. Why I am not a Hindu 1996 and post Hindu India 2009. Remember, why I am not a Hindu 1996 is the important work you please do remember. Now, not only the male writers from the Dalit literature, but female writers are also were also dominating. So, female writer, the first very important you have to remember Mukta Salve. Okay, Mukta Salve, very important thing that just 14 years old, she wrote a wonderful critical essay titled Mang Maharanchya Dukh Visai. That means it was about the grief of the Mang and the Mahars. Grief of the Mang and the Mahars. And this essay was published in 1855. 1855, okay, in the Marathi journal Gyanodaya. ये आपका पूछा गया था. So Mukta Salve. Then very important one we had Shantabai Kamble. Shantabai Kamble, remember, born on 1st March 1923 in Mahar Dalit family, became the first Dalit woman teacher in Solapur 1942. And the work you must remember, this is very important, Majya Jalmachi Chitrakatha. It was translated as the kaleidoscope story of my life or the story of my tattered life. Majya Jalmachi Chitrakatha, translator translation version, the kaleidoscope story of my life or the story of my tattered life. The first autobiographical narrative by a female Dalit woman, okay? And it was serialized in 1983 and published as a book in 1986. Okay, remember, it was serialized first and then it was published in 1986. Another important writer we have Urmila Pawar, Marathi, The View of My Life, a Dalit woman's memoir. It is also an autobiography. There are a lot of autobiographies, so you have to get the correct sequence of all these female Dalit writers' autobiography. The View of My Life, a Dalit woman's memoir. This work is a autobiography 2008. Original title, it was Aidan. So Aidan, The View of My Life. Remember Urmila Pawar, Marathi Dalit female writer. You must remember 2003. Bama is mostly repeated every time. So Bama Faustina Susairaj, known for her novel Sangati. Sangati is the very important work by Bama, remember. Published in 1994, and it was her again autobiography. I told you now that Dalit literature majorly started in oppose to the situation they were facing in the society by the upper caste. Okay, so oppression, humiliation, this type of situation you are going to find in all these works. So majorly they have faced, and all the situations they have been through in their life, they have written in the work. So majorly you are going to find the work in the form of biography or autobiography. So remember, okay, even if you're not getting that the work is written in which genre, so one thing you can remember, whenever you're going to get the questions of Dalit literature, autobiography or biography, it will be the easier to get. Bama's first major novel was Sangati, and the most important work we get in matching chronology questions is Karukku 1992. Okay, so along with Sangati, which was a novel published in 1994, remember another work Karukku 1992 and translated by Lakshmi Homestorm. Okay, Sangati 1994, Karukku 1992. So this is the first, and then after 2 years, Sangati 1994. Then we have another very important Baby Tai Kamble. The name is little bit different, but you have to remember. Baby Tai Kamble, again Marathi. Gina Amucha 1986 is the very important work. Gina Amucha 1986 and The Prison We Broke translated as 2008. This work translated in 2008 as The Prison We Broke. Okay. And the same again we have Meena Kandasamy, English writer. So Meena Kandasamy was a poet, novelist, translator, and anti-caste feminist activist. The way we have in English literature, like we have Virginia Woolf, like we have Ellen Sholto, Mary Wollstonecraft. So similarly, Meena Kandasamy, anti-caste feminist activist. Major work you must remember, Touch. Touch was the poetry 2006 and Miss Militancy poetry 2010. When I Hit You or a portrait of the art writer as a young wife. A portrait of the artist as a young man. I was going to spell that name. So it is a portrait of the writer as a young wife novel 2017. Very, very important. Okay. So Touch Poetry 2000, Miss Vilintensi 2010, and When I Hit You, a portrait of the writer 2017. Next important writer from Dalit literature, remember, Shiva Kami Tamil, okay, as Haina Kazi Dalam. In the Grip of Change is the translation version. 1988, a translated English version 2006. It was the first Tamil novel by a Dalit woman. Again, first Tamil novel by a Dalit woman. So remember the Shiva Kami from Tamil literature and the work and the translation version. Majorly, these things they will mostly ask. Anandai, it is the Taming of Women 1992 and English translation 2011. Once they are writing in regional language, so we need to understand. So that's why all these works you will majorly find in their translation version. Other works include Karukku Vettu, Nalum, Kodram, and Tamil students can relate with. Another important female Dalit writer we have Kumud Pawde, again from Maratha, Anant, Anthas Fort, okay, thoughtful outburst. Anthas Fort or thoughtful outburst, it is also an autobiographical essay based on caste and gender operations, okay. So remember, it was first Ambedkar Sanskrit scholar, Dalit feminist advocacy, intersections of caste, gender, Sanskrit language reclamation. So remember everything about and also one thing important about this, she is a founding member of the National Federation of Dalit Women. Okay, so it is Kumud Pawde, Anthas for Thoughtful Outburst. Gogu Shamla is also appeared in the exam, so we cannot miss Gogu Shamla from Telugu. Father may be an elephant and mother only a small basket, but 2012 an English translation. Okay, remember the title is too long, so you can take it to Gogu Shamla. Gogu Shamla, okay. Now there are a lot of confusion between which could be the first female Dalit writer's autobiography. So the first female Dalit autobiography is Maja Jalmachi Chitra Katha, which is the kaleidoscope story of my life, 1983, by Shanta Bai Kamble. It was clear. That's why it is mentioned as. Please do remember. Another pioneering work, Gina Amucha by Baby Kamble, there was too much confusion when the question was asked, both written in Marathi and capturing the struggle. So it was 1984, okay. So the first will be by Shantabai Kamble, Majia Jalmachi Chitra Katha, okay. Now let me recall you the few important Indian writers. So that is also very important. So we have the first who are associated with Bengal Renaissance and early novelist age from the 18th to 19th century. Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Okay. Remember to solve the chronology questions of these writers. 1772. Henry Louis Vivian Derozio, 1809. Michael Madhusudan Dutt, 1824. Bankim Chandra Chatterjee, 1838. Remember, Toru Dutt is very important, the English writer. Rabindranath Tagore, 1861. Then you have Krupa Bai Sati Anand, 1862. Sarojini Naidu. So the one who are important, Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Henry Louis, Madhusudan Dutt, Toru Dutt, Rabindranath Tagore, and Sarojini Naidu. Their works in chronology. The one who are associated with Gandhian and freedom movement from 1900 to 47, we have Shri Aurobindo Rai. इनके वर्क बहुत ज़्यादा confusing और आपके compose the writers work majorly you can find in the chronology questions and that too much confusing and always many of the time उनका drop ही हो जाता है questions. Mahatma Gandhi, remember Jawaharlal Nehru, sometimes they ask Mulk Raj Anand, important Bhavani Bhattacharya, R.K. Narayan, Rajarao, G.V. Desani, Kushwant Singh, Kamla Markandeya, and Nizam Ezekiel. These are in chronological sequence, so please you can just revise it. Now the one who are associated after post-independence writers in Indian literature after 1947, we have Madhukar Krishna Nayak, 1926. Nayantara Sehgal, Jayant Mahapatra, very important. Remember the key concept. Jagannath Puri. Puri, the word you are going to find in the work, the hunger. Puri is the work that each time you find. A.K. Ramanujan, very important. You are Anant Murthy, V.S. Napol, the diaspora writer. We have Arun Kolatkar, अरुण कुलाटकर जेजूरी द वर्क एवरी टाइम एनटीए आस्क आर पार्था सारथी, इनके वर्क भी अब पूछे जाने लग गए हैं बहुत। रस्किन बॉन्ड, कमला दास द इंडियन कन्फेशनल राइटर, कन्फेशनल पोएट। डॉन मोरिस, ये भी आ चुके हैं आपके। शशि देश पांडे इज ऑल्सो इम्पोर्टेंट, अनीता देसाई एंड मीनाक्षी मुखर्जी। ओके, KKN दारूवाला again important, Arun Joshi, Bharti Mukherjee, JV Patel and Salman Rushdie. This PDF already I have shared on Telegram. Maybe no, last month maybe I have shared this. So I hope you all do have revised. Now modern Indian writers we have Manju Kapoor, Aga Shahid Ali. Sometimes we get questions from Shahid Ali. Vikram Seth, very important. Rohinton Misri, again important. Shashi Tharoor, sometimes Amitav Ghosh, important. The Ibis trilogy of Amitav Ghosh, important. I will show you the trilogy work of also. Chitra Banerjee, Diva Karoni, Sadhguru, Mahesh Dattani, Upmanyu Chatterjee, Arundhati Roy, Vikram Chandra, Anita Nair, Jhumpa Lahiri. So these are the very important writers. Now in contemporary phase, we have Neil Mukherjee, Kiran Desai, very, very important. Chetan Bhagat, again important. Sometimes Arvind Adiga, important. Gitanjali Shri and Stupa Basu. Now let me show you those writers' work which is important for the chronology question. So Chokher Bali, Rabindranath Tagore. Chokher Bali 1903. Remember it was a novel, Female Desire and Widowhood. The theme is based. Gitanjali, the Bengali version 1910 and the first who won the Nobel Prize. Remember, Gitanjali English version is 1912. नोबेल प्राइज विनिंग द गार्डनर, ये आपका आ चुका है क्रोनोलॉजी क्वेश्चन में। क्रेसेंट मून अगेन 1913, द सेम गार्डनर एंड मून। साधना, द रियलाइजेशन ऑफ लाइफ 1913। चित्रा इज ऑल्सो अपीयर्ड इन द एग्जाम। फ्रूट गैदरिंग ये भी आ चुका है आपका। द होम एंड द वर्ल्ड ये भी आ चुका है, रिमेंबर। द फ्यूजिटिव 1921, द रेक 1921। गोरा ये भी आ चुका है आपका, ये आया था प्रीवियसली। नोबेल प्राइज इन लिटरेचर 1913 फॉर गीतांजलि, ही हैज वॉन द वर्क। यू कैन टेक द स्क्रीनशॉट और जस्ट प्रिपेयर द वर्क। जो बोला है कि द वर्क इज इंपॉर्टेंट एंड ऑलरेडी अपीयर्ड, सो प्लीज टू प्रिपेयर। गार्डनर, क्रेसेंट मून, रियलाइजेशन ऑफ लाइफ। चित्रा, चंद्रिका, चंद्रिका इज ऑल्सो देयर ना। चोखेर बाली, चंद्रिका इज ऑल्सो देयर। गीतांजलि, होम एंड वर्ल्ड, फ्यूजिटिव ब्रेक, गोरा। Then Sarojini Naidu's work important. Sarojini Naidu is a Golden Threshold, very important collection of poems by Sarojini Naidu. So Indian Dancer is the part of the Golden Threshold. The Bird of Time 1912, the Broken Wing collection of poems like the World Old Women 1917. You are going to find in this collection the Broken Wing. Okay. The Scattered Flute, ये आपका आया था last year. And known Sarojini Naidu known as Nightingale of India. So Golden Threshold collection of poems, majorly the collection of poems. So in that collection you have to identify one specific work. The Bird of Time 1912, the Broken Wing collection of poems like the Old Woman 1917, the Scattered Flute, it is also a collection of poems in 1943. Sri Aurobindo, might be the year is vary, when year can be vary, everyone. So riddle of this world 1909. Okay, the life divine part 1 and 2 1914 to 1920 in Arya. The synthesis of yoga, this is important. Essays on the Gita, ये भी आ चुका है। आइडियल ऑफ ह्यूमैनिटी, ह्यूमन यूनिटी, ये भी। ह्यूमन साइकिल, ये भी आ चुका है, इट वाज टू कंफ्यूजिंग। द फ्यूचर पोएट्री 1919 टू 1920, सावित्री ये आपका आ चुका है, अ लेजेंड एंड अ सिंबल। ओके, and the foundations of Indian culture. So remember all the works. The Life Divine, Synthesis of Yoga, Essay on Gita, Ideal of Human Unity, The Human Cycle, Future Poetry, all these works. Savitri is very, very important of Sri Aurobindo. Mulk Raj Anand, Untouchable 1935. Okay. Coolie 1936. Two Leaves and a Bird 1937. The Village 1939. It is a trilogy work, also known as Lalu trilogy work. Okay. So in Lalu trilogy, you are going to find the work The Village, part 1. Okay. This is the part 1. Across the Black Water, this is the part 2. And The Sword and the Sickle, this is the part 3. So remember the year. The Village Trilogy Part 1, 1939, then 1940, Across the Black Water, and 42 will be the third, The Sword and the Sickle. The Big Heart 1945. Okay. Now, few important facts about Mulk Raj Anand you must know. Seven Summers, 1951, the first part of his autobiographical series. Seven Summers is the biographical work by Mulk Raj Anand. Morning Face, 1968, it was a semi-autobiographical novel, won the Sahitya Academy Award. Okay. Confessions of a Lover, 1976, it is the second part of his autobiographical series. Second part of the autobiographical series, Seven Summers. The Bubble 1984, Death of a Hero 1993, which was published posthumously, An Apology for Heroism. It is a brief autobiography of the ideas. Okay. Remember now the first biography 1951, Seven Summers. Second, Confessions of a Lover 1976. The work You Morning Face is also important, Death of a Hero, and all the works that we have discussed previously. Untouchable, Coolie, Leaves and a Bird, Village, the three trilogies, Lalu trilogies, majorly, you please do remember. Then we have R.K. Narayan. So R.K. Narayan is also very important. Swami and Friends. Same year you have to remember Mulk Raj Anand's Untouchable 1935. Swami and Friends also same 1935. The Bachelor of Arts 1937. Dark Room 1938. English Teacher 1945. The Mr. Sampath 1949. The Financial Expert 1952. Waiting for the Mahatma 1955. The guide 1958. This PDF is available on the Telegram group. I am telling you, you can get and revise. The guide 1958, Sahitya Academy Award winner. This work is The Man Eater of Malgudi 1961. Malgudi is the fictional town. Vendor of Sweets 1967. The Painter of Science 1976. The Tiger of Malgudi 1983. Talkative Man 1986. The World of Nagraj 1990 and Grandmother's Tale 1992. So in these all the works are important for the questions आइडेंटिफिकेशन कि किस राइटर ने लिखा है सो यू guide we all know, bachelor of arts we all know, dark room, English teacher, Mr. Sampath, waiting for Mahatma we all know, but remember whenever you're going to find the word common word Malgudi you can instantly think about R.K. Narayan. Okay, similarly William Faulkner's the work this fictional town you have Yogna Patapa, and Wessex is also a fictional town, so there are so much fictional town created by the different writers in the literature. Vendor of Sweets, Painter of Science, Tiger of Malgudi. Remember all the works by R.K. Narayan. And a notable short story collection also, Malgudi Days, Lovely Road, A Horse and Two Goats, and supported by Graham Greene in publishing. His first work, Swami and Friends, rejected by many publishers. So, just like Mulk Raj Anand, 19 publishers rejected his work, first Untouchable. His work, Swami and Friends, also rejected. So, Graham Greene, remember the very important pointer, Graham Greene became the supporter, survivor, and published, helped him to publish the work. Now Raja Rao, Kantapura 1938. So in chronology, the first will be Mulk Raj Anand, second will be R.K. Narayan, and third will be Raja Rao. Kantapura 1938. Cow of the Barricades, it is a short story 1947. Serpent and the Rope, this is the most repeated work. Sahitya Academy Award winner, this work is. The Cat and Shakespeare, this is very important because there are so many books written on Shakespeare, preface to Shakespeare, life on Shakespeare, criticism on Shakespeare. So Cat and Shakespeare, don't get too confused. It is by Raja Rao. Okay. Comrade Kirillov, 1976, The Chess Master and His Moves in 1988. Remember everything about Kanthapura. One important, who is the narrator? So it is Achakka. The very important PYQ this question is, okay. Gandhian and On the Ganga Ghat 1989 and The Meaning of India is an essay by Raja Rao. Now Kamla Markandeya's the work Nectar in Sea. This is very very important 1954. Some Inner Fury 1955, Silence of Desire, this was the PYQs again with the Nectar in Sea. Proposition 1963, Handful of Rice, this is also कहाँ पे आते हैं ये मेजरली टू आइडेंटिफाई ओके आइडेंटिफिकेशन में ये वर्ड्स आते हैं सो प्लीज डू रिमेंबर नोवेयर मैन 1972 टू वर्जिन्स 1973 प्लेजर सिटी 1982 एंड द गोल्डन हनीकॉम ये आया था आपका प्रीवियसली Now, Nirad C. Chaudhary, not so important, but the one work important, Autobiography of an Unknown Indian, 1951. Passage to England, A Passage to India by E. M. Foster. This is A Passage to England by Nirad C. Chaudhary, 1959. Remember, The Continent of Circle, 1965, won Duff Cooper Memorial Prize. This work, Continent of Circle. Intellectual in India, 1967, To Live or Not to Live, The Hand, Gate, Anar, and Three Horsemen of the New Apocalypse. Okay. Manohar Malgaonkar, Distant Drum, this is the PYQ. Combat of Shadows, Princess, this is also a PYQ. Princess, 1963, Manohar Malgaonkar, remember. Bend in the Ganges, this is also a PYQ identification by writer. Spy in Amber, 1971, it is an espionage novel. The Devil's Mind, 1972, historical novel on Nana Sahib. Cactus Country, 1971, it is a non-fiction. Garland Keepers, 1986, and Dropping Names, 2005, it is a memoir. So remember, Manohar Malgaonkar, Distant Drum, Combat of Shadows, The Princess, Band in the Ganges. Okay. मनोज दास टाइगर इन एट ट्वाइलाइट इनका एक भी आई हैव नॉट आइडेंटिफाइड सो वी कैन इनका आया था डॉम मॉरिस का सो वी कैन अ बिगिनिंग 1957 his first book of poems which won the Hawthorne Prize. A Beginning 1957, first book of poems. Poems 1960, his second books, John Nobody 1965. Remember the name is totally different. Dom Morrison का वर्क आया था. Beldam and Others 1967. It is a pamphlet verse. Absence 1983 and Collected Poems. These are the compilation of all his poems. Okay. Beginning, do remember. Now, autobiography and memoirs by Dom Morris. So, Gone Away. It is an Indian journey and it was his first memoir detailing his travels in India. My Son's Father, 1968, a second autobiography, Novel at Home, 1994. Today's video I won't put on Premiere, but I will upload and make it public at once so that you can increase the speed and you can watch all together, okay? Because if the class will be lengthier, so you do not have time, आप देख पाए speed increase करके 2 by 3 by जैसे भी. So, Variety of Absence 2003 and also known for journalism and biography, Dom Morris. Now, very important writer we have Nizim Ezekiel. Remember 1924 to 2004. Time to Change and Other Poems 1950 to 60 poems. This was the PYQs. Third, 1959, Unfinished Man. This is again most repeated PYQs. Exact name again. This is most repeated PYQs by Nizim Ezekiel. Unfinished Man. Exact name Hymns in Darkness. एक मैंने इसका एक निमोनिक रेडी किया था. Letter de Zalm 1982. Remember. And Collected Poems 1952. Time. This is Time to Change. It's time to write 60 poems. Sorry, I'm forgetting. I have prepared the mnemonic. The first one, if you're going to put in chronology, so you can remember Time to Change. So, Time to Change the 1952. It's time to write 60 poems. Then, after you have 60 poems, then Unfinished Man and exact name with exact title, exact name, and Do Not Lost in Darkness. So, it is Hymns in Darkness. There was something I prepared. Sorry, I'm forgetting. I will tell you later. Remember, please, Time to Change, 1952, 60 poems, Unfinished Man, exact name, Hymns in Darkness, Letter Design. These are the very important. Translations he has done is Snake Skin and other poems in Marathi of the Marathi poet Indra Sant. इनके plays भी है, 3 plays 1969 includes Nalini, marriage poem and the Sleepwalkers, songs of deprivation. Now Jayant Mahapatra I was talking about, so इनके work कुछ है which is Close the Sky 10 by 10 and Swayamvara and other poems 19. So Father's Hours and the Rain of Rights. A Rain of Rights ये पूछा गया था 1976. Waiting 1979. The False Start and Relationship 1980. Life Science Dispossessed Net Selected Poems Burden of Waves and Fruit. Temple. Temple is also a collection by George Herbert, the metaphysical poets, but Temple it is do not confused and Indian writer Jayant Mahapatra, 1989, remember, and Whiteness of Bone. Later and collected works, the best of Jayant Mahapatra, 1995, Shadow Piece, Barefaced, Stand-Up, Decent, Lie of Dawns, Land Collected, Reading. No, I'm looking for something else. इन्हीं में उनका वर्क मिलेगा. द फर्स्ट इंडियन पोएट टू विन साहित्य अकेडमी अवार्ड इन इंग्लिश पोएट्री, फर्स्ट इंडियन इंग्लिश पोएट, एंड ही ऑल्सो सर्व्ड एज द एडिटर ऑफ द लिटरेरी मैगजीन चंद्रभागा. Jayant Mahapatra's work, maybe I forgot to add. Hunger is a poem. In this collection, you will find. So please do remember. Single a name title दिया जाता है. A.K. Ramanujan, known for his work as a poet, translator, and a scholar of linguistic and folklore, also known for translation and cultural studies. Remember, the Striders, this is the most repeated PYQs, relations, selected poems, second sides. Striders, do not forget about the Striders, 1966. The collected poems of A.K. Ramanujan, 1995, published posthumously, and A.K. Ramanujan Samagra, complete Kannada works, 2011, which was also published posthumously. Okay. Now let's move on to the Kamla Das. So Kamla Das is compared to the one of the most important confessional poet of American literature we have is Sylvia Plath. So Sylvia Plath's work, remember, Ariel, the poetry collection, Daddy, Lady, Lazarus, Parda, okay, and majorly the theme distressed, stressed, life and death. So Kamla Das, Sirens Poetry, 1964. Summer in Calcutta is the poetry collection, which is very important, 1965. The Descendants Poetry, 1967. Old Playhouse and Other Poems. These are the repeated PYQs, everyone. My Story. My Story, Anti Katha in Tamil, remember, Malayalam. Anti Katha, remember, it is an autobiography. The Stranger Time Poetry, 1977. Tonight, The Savage Ride. Poetry with British Nandi, 1970, and collected poems volume Anna Malay poems. Remember, it is also written in Malayalam. Madhvi Kutti is the name written in Malayalam, and Kamla Das she used to write in English. Okay. My Mother at 66 poem collection is it also important. So Summer in Calcutta, My Story, and The Descendants, and all My Mother at 66. Malayalam works is also here given. Anupu, Ente Katha, and the name is like too long. Now let's move on to the next. One thing important is Arun Kolatkar's Jejuri, 1976, is his first major book of English poetry, which won the Commonwealth Poetry Prize in 1977. Jejuri बहुत repeated है ये. And this work established his reputation in Indian English literature. Poems explores the titular town in Maharashtra. Okay, Arun Kolatkarcharya Kavita. Arun Kolatkarcha Kavita, 1977. It was his first collection of poetry written in Marathi. So please do remember all the highlights. काला घोड़ा पोएम, ये आपका रिपीटेड है. काला घोड़ा आता है माइनर वर्क में. Published shortly before his death by Arun Kulatkar. Sarp Satra, 2004. Hichki Wahi, 2004. Chiri Miri, 2004. Dora, Drone, 2004. Boat Ride and Other Poems, 2008. And Collected Poems. Okay. G.V. Patel is also important. So G.V. Patel, he was renowned Indian poet, playwright, painter and physician. So remember the poem How Do You Withstand Body, 1976, Mirror and Mirroring, 1991, and notably the widely studied poem is On Killing a Tree. Okay, this is the repeated PYQ, On Killing a Tree, and he is also majorly known for this work. Princess is also 1971. The Princess is you just saw now. एंड सवस्कर 1982 एंड मिस्टर बहराम, ये भी आपका PYQs में आ चुका है. ये ऐसे ही वर्क को टारगेट करते हैं हमारे स्कोर को स्नैच करने के लिए. यूनिस डिसूजा, यू हैव a poet, literary critic, novelist, and a long-serving English literature professor at St. Xavier College. Poems How do you withstand body? 1976. Mirrored and mirroring. 1991. So the same. There is something. G.V. Patel and Eunice D'Souza. There is something wrong. Okay, I will clear this. I will share their works on Telegram. Poetry collection, Women in Dutch, not important. Behram novels, and let me see Dilip Chitre. Dilip Chitre's one work we get in the question paper, and that you can please do remember here. Godam 1983. Okay, that's it. Is there any? आगा शाहिद अली का तो पता ही है आपको. There are very few. Call me Ismail tonight. The country without a post office and the beloved witness. Vikram Seth. Vikram Seth mapping 1980. Remember poetry collections. These are the poetry collections by Vikram Seth. Mapping. All you who sleep tonight. The humble administrator's garden. Beastly tales from here and there. Summer Requiem. This is the PYQ. Revered Earth. Collected poems. So not so many, but novels are important by Vikram Seth. Okay. So the Golden Gate we know. This is the important PYQ. Suitable boy again important, and suitable girl. So suitable boy and Golden Gate, these are majorly asked in the paper. Non-fiction he has written From Heaven Lake and Two Lives. Arundhati Roy cannot skip. God of Small Things 1997, her debut novel which let her won the Booker Prize. Remember the character here, Ammo Belutha. Okay, Belutha, the Ministry of Utmost Happiness. Here you are going to find the character Anjum. Her second novel, 2017, Ministry of Utmost Happiness, second novel, 2017, published 20 years after the first, 1997, God of Small Things. Then non-fiction वर्क देख लेते हैं. So cost of living, power politics, जिसमें जो इसमें आता है, let me tell you, algebra of infinite, ये आ चुका है, word talk, power politics, cost of living, an ordinary person's guide, shape of the beast, broken republic, working with comrades, capitalism, end of imagination, B.R. Ambedkar. Okay. Jeet Thayil, Gemini, Apocalypse, English, the errors are correct, collected poems. Bombay trilogy, remember about the Jeet Thayil. Narcopolis, ये important है. The Book of Chocolate Saints, Low 2020. Okay. अरुंधति सुब्रमण्यम, डोंट नो, इसमें काफी सारे राइटर्स हैं. अभय के, इनका बहुत रेयर पूछा जाता है. मीना कांदा स्वामी का आता है जिप्सी गॉडेस, रिमेम्बर, ये बताया ही था आपको, मैंने हिट यू. टच मिस मिलिटेंसी. Mahesh Dattani's work are important. Okay, so Dance Like a Man is very important. Repeated PYQs. Tara, the work which is very important. Remember, it is the very heart-touching story you have with the daughter Tara. Bravely Fought the Queen. Final Solution. These are the important works, everyone. On a Muggy Night in Mumbai. ये आपके सारे repeated matching question, chronology questions हैं. Matching and chronology में पूछ लिया जाता है also. Seven Circles Round the Fire. It is a radio play for the BBC. Steps Around the Fire. 30 Days in September. Girl Who Touched the Stars. Brief. Where Did I Leave My Parda? The Big Fat City. Gohar. स्नैपशॉट अनटचेबल, इनका भी एक अनटचेबल है विच इज द लास्ट 2022. चार अनटचेबल वर्क्स हो गए, सो प्लीज डोंट गेट. डांस लाइक अ मैन एंड डांस लाइक अ गॉडेस विच इज द लास्ट 2024 वर्क, यर वर्क. ओके, डांस लाइक अ मैन 1989 एंड डांस लाइक अ गॉडेस 2024. Similarly, there are a lot of important writers in this PDF. Please do join the Telegram and practice. The Dark Horse, Shashi Deshpande's work is also important. Then Ruskin Bond, 1-2 work we definitely find in the question paper. Man Eater of Manjari, Love is a Sad Song, Hidden Pool, Delhi is Not Far. Amitabh Ghosh, इनका ट्रिलॉजी देख लीजिए प्लीज. So novels and fiction, Circle of Reason, very important, and the repeated Shadow of Lines, again important. Calcutta Chromosome 1995, winner of the Arthur C. Clarke Award, remember. Glass Palace 2000, Hungry Tide 2004, Sea of Poppies 2008. This is the first book of the Ibis trilogy. River of Smoke 2011. This is the second book. Flood of Fire, third book of the trilogy. Okay. So all this work, remember, Sea of Poppies, River Smokes and Flood of Fire. एंड ये सारे वर्क बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट एंड रिपीटेड है एंड इनके कैरेक्टर्स भी वन कैरेक्टर इन ग्लास पैलेस यू हैव राजकुमार hungry tide you will find the character fakir. Okay, so fakir you can relate with the tiger. If he's a fakir, he must be hungry, and there is a palace, so there must be the rajkumar. So this is how you can relate. Non-fiction in antique land, dancing in Cambodia, all these are, but this please do not miss. Arvind Adiga, The White Tiger is important, winner of the Man Booker Prize. Last Man in Tower. Okay. Kushwant Singh, Train to Pakistan work is very important. Majorly, his novel Train to Pakistan remains his most famous work, and he majorly explores the themes of a partition. Okay, so Train to Pakistan 1957. I Shall Not Hear the Nightingale 59. Delhi, a novel 1990. The Company of Women 1999. Burial at Sea. Burial of the Dead. 5 sections of the Wasteland. 2004. The Sunset Club 2010. Kushwant Singh. Okay, short story collection is also there, so please do. ट्रेन टू पाकिस्तान आपको जरूर याद रखना है. अमृता प्रीतम का वर्क भी आ चुका है. कागज से कैनवस एंड काफी सारे हैं इसमें. झुम्पा लाहिरी इज अ सेलिब्रेटेड ब्रिटिश अमेरिकन ऑथर नोन फॉर हर इंसाइटफुल स्टोरीज. डायस्पोरा लिटरेचर में भी स्टडी अबाउट हिम. ब्रिटिश अमेरिकन ऑथर. ओके. She gained widespread recognition when her debut work, the short story collection Interpreter of Maladies, won the 2000 Pulitzer Booker Prize. And then you have Interpreter of Maladies 1999, Namesake 2003, Unaccustomed Earth 2008, and The Lowland 2013. Okay, everyone. So these are the important highlights of the work of all the Indian literature altogether covered. Now let's solve the questions. Now this is Indian literature majorly, so let's focus some memory based one liners questions. Okay, so the first Indian English book we have The Travels of Deen Muhammad 1794. 1794. 1798 was the year of 1798 was the year of romantic age, right? So 1794 before 4. Deen Muhammad was written in the form of 38 epistolary travel letters. Remember what is epistolary? So 38. First Indian English play we have The Persecuted 1831 by Krishna Mohan Banerjee. Everything highlight, please do notice and revise once and for all. First Indian English play The Persecuted 1831 by Krishna Mohan Banerjee exposes the hypocrisy of orthodox Hindu priest. First Indian English novel we have Raj Mohan's Wife. Raj Mohan's Wife 1864 by Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay was serialized in the magazine The Indian Field. Okay. First Indian science fiction we have The Journal of 48 Hours of the year 1945 by Kailash Chandra Dutt. Science fiction, Journal of 48 Hours of the year 1945. Okay. Kailash Chandra Dutt, imagine in this work he has imagined a student revolution against the East India Company. The Sunset Law novel, remember the Sunset Law novel, Fakir Mohan Senapati's Odia novel, 6 Acres and the Third exposes 6 Acres and Third exposes how British land laws allowed the clerk Ramchandra Mangaraj to steal the land. So this is called the Sunset Law novel. Okay, by Fakir Mohan Senapati's Odia novel. This is Disraeli connection. O. Chandu Menon wrote Indu Lekha 1889 because translating Benjamin Disraeli's Henrietta Temple into Malayalam proved to culturally alien. So O. Chandu Menon wrote Indu Lekha 1889. This is called the Disraeli connection. Okay, so Disraeli connection. Try to get the keyword. That's a French face. Toro, that's a French face. A sheaf gleaned in French fields 1876 contains Toru Dutt's English translation of French romantic poets, not original poems. Okay, so a sheaf gleaned in French fields 1876. It was contains Toru Dutt's English translation of French romantic poets. So remember the work 1876 Sheaf Greenland Toru Dutt's French poets. Now, Toru Dutt's exotic novel. Toru Dutt's exotic novel. Her unfinished English novel Bianca, remember, or The Spanish Maiden features zero Indian characters or the location. So this is the exotic novel, Toru Dutt. The first female advocate. In India, the first female advocate, Cornelia Sorabji, wrote Love and Life Behind the Parda 1901. Cornelia Sorabji, Love and Life Behind the Parda 1901 to depict the legal isolation of cloistered Parda Nashi women. Okay. Now in the contemporary, please do remember and do not skip the class and share to all. Third theatre is very important, most repeated of PYQ. Third theatre founder Badal Sirkar it is associated with. So third theatre abandoned proscenium arc stages for third theatre, flexible low cost street plays to reach the working class. So first theater, second theater, they were round and popular. So he brought the concept of third theater, Badal Sirkar, to make it reach to the masses. Okay. Next we have the abstract city chorus. Abstract city in Badal Sirkar's play Procession, an old man wanders through the endless political rallies searching for his home. So remember, Abstract City, it is the procession play by Badal Sirkar. Missing character motive. In which work? In Girish Karna's Hyavadna, character we have practiced so much. Girish Karna's Hyavadna, the theme of human perfection is introduced by literal talking horse-headed man. Okay, so there is a missing character motive in which work Hyavadna. Now, Vedic fire myth. Vedic fire myth in Girish Karnad's this is the writer's trivia you can remember. The way I just uploaded the video in today morning. So Girish Karnad's The Fire and the Rain is based on the myth of Yavakri or Pravasu from the one Parva of the Mahabharata. Moral compass character. So moral compass character we have Nitilai, a lower caste tribal girl, serve as the ultimate moral voices in Girish Karnad's The Fire and the Rain. Okay, The Fire and the Rain, Hayavadana, Nag Mandala, all these very important works by Girish Karnad जरूर आता है. Political satire of puppets. So in Vijay Tendulkar's encounter, political satire of puppets in Vijay Tendulkar's encounter in Umland, corrupt politicians make Princess Vijaya a puppet ruler. Okay, so puppet it is called a political satire of puppet. What which work? It is a encounter Umland. This is the work by Vijay Tendulkar and the character Princess Vijaya play a role of puppet ruler. Okay, but she outsmarts them. The trapped bonsai motif. In Mahesh Dattani's bravely fought the queen, a withered bonsai plant reflects the suffocating domestic lives of the characters Alka and Dolly. So the trapped bonsai motif in Mahesh Dattani's work bravely fought the queen. Okay, just you see lot of works now. So bravely fought the queen is the work by Mahesh Dattani. Remember, and here you are going to find the concept, the trapped bonsai motif, which is in the form of the character Alka and Dolly. Okay, Alka and Dolly. Bonsai plant reflects the suffocating domestic lives of the character. Then you have communal chest iconography. In Mahesh Dattani's Final Solution, Final Solution is the work a history trunk belonging to Hardik acts as the key generational to communal guilt. So communal guest iconography you are going to find in the form of the character Nazma in Mahesh Dattani's work Final Solution. Then in the modernist, the post-colonial trilogy, it is R. Parthasarthis Rough Passage. This is the PYQ. Okay, R. Parthasarthis PYQ work Rough Passage 1976 is split into three precise structural parts. Remember those parts: exile, trial, and homecoming. Okay, exile, trial, and homecoming. Mic is on now. Okay. Now, medical gaze poet. This is not the three male gaze, but this is the medical gaze poet. G.V. Patel is a practicing physician whose collection, How Do You Withstand Body, examines violence on human flesh with clinical coldness. बॉडी को कट कर दिया जाता है, व्हेन somebody die, उनके हार्ट निकाल लिए जाते हैं, उनका माइंड निकाल लिया, उनकी आंखें निकाल ली जाती है. सो दिस इज मेडिकल गेज उन्होंने बताया है कि वायलेंस ऑन ह्यूमन फ्लैश विथ क्लिनिकल कोल्डनेस. डॉक्टर है तो उनको वो होना पड़ता है बिकॉज दे हैव प्रैक्टिस थ्रू आउट देयर मेडिकल जर्नी. डोमेस्टिक गॉथिक स्टाइल. सो यू विल रिमेंबर ना एवरी हाईलाइट एवरीवन. डोमेस्टिक गॉथिक स्टाइलिस्ट, यहाँ से गेज से ना जीवी पटेल याद रखेंगे. ओके. डोमेस्टिक गॉथिक स्टाइलिस्ट मनोहर शेट्टी's collection A Guarded Space 1981 uses insects, spiders and small animals to symbolize hidden mental anxieties. Obviously when we feel anxious, when we feel when we are in stress, it's like कि small small जो worms होते हैं वो हमारे mind में इधर उधर like they are traveling. ऐसे ऐसे होता रहता है. So he has a remember used all these insects and small animals to symbolize the hidden mental anxieties, and that what they have called domestic gothic stylist in the work Manohar Shetty and the work A Guarded Space 1981. Now the missing person and persona. Adil Jusawala. Adil Juswala's book length poem Missing Person 1976 cast the westernized bourgeois Indian intellectual as a cultural exile. So this is Missing Person Persona. Adil Jaswala, book length poem Missing Persona is the work, 1977 is the publication. And in this work, he has cast westernized bourgeois Indian intellectual as a cultural exile. Now, Writers Cooperative. What do you mean by this? So, Clearinghouse 1970 was a self-funded publishing cooperative formed by, again, it is Jaswala, Mehrotra, Kolatkar and Patel to bypass mainstream publishers. So that's what it called Writers Cooperative. They have cooperated, and Clearinghouse 1970 was a self-funded publishing. Similarly, there are many groups in English literature, like we have Bloomsbury group, like we have the Movement Poets. So there were inking poets too. One important moment we have who have the self-funded. So this is the Indian writers, okay, and the writers associated Jaswala, Mehrotra, Kolatkar, Patel. Tragic Jewish tragic Jewish slave. In Amitabh Ghosh's genre bending in an antique land, antique in an antique land, the 12th century Indian slave Bama is tracked using the Cairo Geniza documents. This is the important PYQ, please do practice. This is the tragic Jewish slave Amitabh Ghosh in an antique land work. Here he has used in the 12th century Indian slave Burma to track the using Cairo Genzi. Okay. Now the fictional town of Kittur. The way we have fictional town Malgudi, Yokna Patauka, Wessex. Similarly, the fictional town of Kittur. Arvind Adiga's lesser known short story collection Between the Assassination, or ye not this is the minor or lesser known, but this is major for NTA. This is minor for us, but major for NTA. So between the assassin, the fictional town Kittur is highlighted here, okay, which centers the structural poverty of characters like Ziauddin who lives in Kittur, okay. So it is Arvind Adiga. Now in the post-colonial we have subaltern gender pivot. So it is the subaltern is associated with Gayatri Spivak argues in Can the Subaltern Speak the Worker that the subaltern woman is doubly silenced by both colonial discourse and indigenous patriarchy. घरों में भी औरतों की आवाज को दबा दिया जाता है. Now the critic of elite history, Ranjit Guha, launched the Subaltern Studies Collective to prove that Indian peasants possessed an independent political consciousness overlooked by elitist historians. So the critic of elitist history, remember, do not get confused. Subaltern study, subaltern can the subaltern speaker is Gayatri Chakravarti Spivak, and here he has used the subaltern studies Ranjit Guha. in Subaltern Studies Collective to highlight the Indian peasants possessed an independent political consciousness. Now you have the derivative discourse critic. So derivative discourse critic, it is Partha Chatterjee associated with argued that Indian nationalism was structurally dependent on European templates of enlightenment, reason, and nation-state model. So this is what we call derivative discourse, and it is writer associated. We have a Partha Chatterjee. So Partha Chatterjee ने argue किया that Indian nationalism or structurally somehow we have depended on the European templates. Okay, templates like the format theme we wanted. Now demolition of Rasa theory. So Sharan Kumar Limle's towards an aesthetic of Dalit literature totally rejects traditional Sanskrit aesthetics terms like Satyam, Shivam and Sundaram. ये था आपका दिसंबर 2025 या जून 2025 में highlighted questions. So demolition of Rasa theory. He has rejected the term. Rasa theory talks about Satyam, Shivam, Sundaram. So he has rejected. Okay, remember very important Sharan Kumar. In which work Dalit writer का work दिखाया मैंने आपको towards an aesthetic of Dalit literature and rejects traditional Sanskrit aesthetic terms जो आपका है S3 Satyam Shivam and Sundaram. Now double operation memoir. So double operation memoir, it is associated with Bama's Tamil autobiography Karukku. Specifically, this work explores the painful intersection of Dalit identity, gender, and corruption inside the Catholic Church. So that is why यहाँ पे Catholic Church भी mention है, तो ये आपका important बन जाता है. I hope you have do got the point. Okay, let me see if any. Now we have criminal tribe narrative. So criminal tribe narrative, it is associated with Lakshman Gaikwad's Marathi autobiography Uchalya. That means the outcast. It records the survival battles of India's historically stigmatized denotified tribes. Understand everyone? Remember all the highlights and the lesser known facts or the writers trivia on Indian literature, Indian writers majorly. Now we will practice some questions. So see the first question and let me drink water. You have to match the Northeastern English masterpiece with their central character or structural focal points. Okay, so match. I hope you do have got the correct answer. So you have to match. अब जो वहाँ पे कुछ वर्क या राइटर मिस हो गए होंगे, you can practice with the questions. So the Black Hill, it is a 2014 by Mamang Dai. When the River Sleeps 2014 by Estrin Carey. These Hills Called Home 2006 by Temsula Au and The Legends of Pensum 2006 by Mamang Dai again. Okay. So the character options, correct answer we have option A. Let me tell you. Mamanda's The Black Hill Chronicle, Gimore's Cross Tribal Elopement, this work is Eastern Carrots When the River Sleeps, focuses on the hunter village. Temsula Aus, The Jungle Major, centers on the Khatila's bravery, and the legends of the Pensum serves as an ancestral diary of the Adi community. Next. Now these are the work and translator. You must match them correctly. Autobiography, the Dalit writers, Dalit literature, and the translators who has translated. Karuku by Bama 1992, Jutan 1997, Do Revise by Om Prakash Valmiki 1997. The Prison 1997, again just you said no, remember Arundhati Roy, the god of small things, and there are so many, not single. The Prison We Broke 1988 by Baby Kamle Baluta, 1978 by Daya Pawar. Translated by Jerry Pinto, translated by Arun Prabha Mukherjee, Lakshmi Holmstrom, and Maya Pandit. Options. Now, correct answer we have option A. We can match A with 3. Karuku is translated by, sorry, A with three now. Karuku 1992, Bama translated by Lakshmi Homestorm, remember. Jutan second translated by Arun Prabha Mukherjee. Then Prison We Broke, Baby Kamble, not Kamble, Baby Kamble, Maya Pandit and Baluta Daya Pawar by Jerry Pinto. Okay, everyone. So Karuku by Bama 1992, translated by Lakshmi Homestorm. Jutan by Om Prakash Valmiki, translated by Maya Pandit, translated by Lakshmi Homestorm. Baby Kamli, Maya Pandit, Daya Pawar, Jerry Pinto, and Om Prakash Prabha Mukherjee. So remember the translation. Here सब कुछ mention है. Next question. Which foundational Marathi text is historically celebrated as the first full-length Dalit autobiography ever published, detailing the urban-rural struggles of the Mahar community? So specifically Mahar community mentioned है. तो आपको शरण कुमार लिमडिस अकारमशी, दया पवार बलूता, लक्ष्मण गायकवाड़ उचाल्या एंड ओम प्रकाश वाल्मीकि जुठन. ज्यादा टाइम नहीं है. Correct answer, it will be Daya Pawar's Baluta. Okay, so specifically the work which focus on urban rural struggles of the Mahar community. This is Daya Pawar's Baluta, published in 1878 in Marathi. Baluta here shocked the literary landscape by breaking the structured silence around caste hierarchies inside Mumbai's chawls. Specifically, remember Mumbai's chawls की बात की जा रही है. Remember ना, in rural Maharashtra. Next question. Now the character Imtimoa. What is this? A dim-witted, often exploited during the height of the Naga underground independence struggle appears in which story by Temsula A? The Curfew Man, The Last Song, Skoba, Soaba, and The Pot Maker. अब ये बिल्कुल अननोन होंगे. The one who have studied deeply, उनके लिए known होगा. So remember the character you have here, Imtuma. ना अजीब नाम है. तेमसुला नागा वो अंडरग्राउंड, ये अंडरग्राउंड हो जाते हैं. स्ट्रगल, इंडिपेंडेंस स्ट्रगल अपीयर्स इन विच स्टोरी? सो स्टोरी you have Swaba. So in the story Swaba, Temsula, the writer, tracks the life of innocent orphan Impioma, highlight how political insurgencies brutally trap subaltern civilians who do not understand the ideology of the world. So it is basically part of the world wars that happens. Next, which multi-generational Telugu novel by G. Kalyan Rao, translated into English, uses the metaphors of song, dance, seasonal shifts to record the history of the Mala community? G. Kalyan Rao, Telugu novel, uses the song, dance, and seasonal shifts to record the history of Mala community. Untouchable Spring, The Grip of Change towards an aesthetic of Dalit literature and the outcast. अब इसमें से जो वर्क इनका नहीं है उसको आप एलिमिनेट करके देखें. Untouchable Spring, The Grip of towards an aesthetic of Dalit literature. You can eliminate the outcast. You can also eliminate and Untouchable Spring, The Grip of Change. You can also eliminate. So Untouchable Spring will be the correct answer. G. Kalyan Rao, Tamil, Telugu, no? Telugu writer. So G. Kalyan Rao, Anand Rani Vasantham, translated as Untouchable. This is the work translated as Untouchable Spring, stands out as a poetic, non-linear epic tracing the structural survivor of Dalit art across the generations. This is Mamam Desai. Now see this question, The View of My Life. This is the PYQ. The View of My Life, a Dalit woman's memoir, is the acclaimed English translation of the autobiography of which prominent feminist writer and activist? Baby Kamble, Urmila Pawar, Bama and Meena Kandasamy. View of My Life. किसका वर्क है? So View of My Life is the work by Urmila Pawar. Okay, Urmila Pawar's Marathi text Aidan, also known as the View of My Life. So Aidan is the work in Marathi and it is translated as the View of My Life. Brilliant parallel between the mother weaving bamboo baskets and her own act of weaving memories together. If you now you do not have time, that's why I keep telling you that go to the description, go to the bio, explore the playlist. दलित लिटरेचर का फर्स्ट आई हैव अपलोडेड अ वेरी डिटेल क्लास जिसमें ये सारी चीजें मेंशन है. इफ यू वुड हैव बीन वॉच दैट क्लासेस, ये क्वेश्चंस आपसे इजीली सॉल्व हो जाते. नाउ दिस question is important. You have to match the translated progressive masterpiece with the specific characters, and here very important, you have, please do not miss. I'm just asking you to concentrate and focus on the class, everyone. I'm not asking you to share. I'm not asking you to like. I'm not asking you to subscribe. But today is final day, and you must please revise well. The Shroud, Coffin by Premchand. The Quilt, Lihaf by Ismat Chugtai. दिस इज द इम्पोर्टेंट पीवाईक्यूज. ये वर्क्स आपके पूछे जा चुके हैं माइनर लिटरेचर में. होल दो ओपन इट बाय सादत हसन मैंतो एंड पेशावर एक्सप्रेस बाय कृष्ण चंदन. So please do match correctly. See these two options first and then we will go to the next two. Characters, Gesu and Madhav, two lazy laborers, where you can find who spend money meant for a funeral shroud on food and drink. So shroud, it is mentioned, we can match with this. Okay, the character, remember, Gesu and Madhav, two lazy laborers, spend money meant for a funeral. जो funeral के लिए पैसे रखे होते हैं वो उसको ये खर्च कर देते हैं फूड एंड ड्रिंक पे. So this is by Premchand, The Coffin. The Quilt, Lihaf, Begum, Jan and Raghu, exploring the female desire and isolation under the shifting shadow of the quilt. So Lihaf will be the correct answer by Ishmat. Then we have Kholdo, a character we have Sakina, a young girl character, Gadar movie. Sakina, a young girl found during partition. So यहाँ पे वो भी partition का ही है character वो भी. Whose subconscious response to the words open it reveals intense trauma. So ये आपका यहीं पे है. एक एक हाईलाइट जो दिया हुआ है प्लीज उससे आप उसको अटैच करें. द पेशावर एक्सप्रेस बाय कृष्ण चंद्र, एन एम्प्टी ट्रेन. एक्सप्रेस है तो एक्सप्रेस से ट्रेन एक्सप्रेस होती है. फंक्शनिंग एज अ नॉन ह्यूमन नरेटर विटनेसिंग हॉरिफिक पार्टीशन राइट्स अलोंग द ट्रैक्स. द वे उसमें दिखाता है आपका. नाउ ग्राफिक नॉवेल एंड द कैरेक्टर. एक बार इसको देखकर मैच करिए. एट वंस, मैं भी तो आ रही हूँ बीच में, यहाँ आ जाती हूँ. कॉरिडोर बाय सारनाथ बैनर्जी. करी बाय अमृता पाटिल. आदि पर्व बाय अमृता पाटिल अगेन. सो कैरेक्टर यू हैव बृंदा एंड जहांगीर, रंगून वाला और टी वेंडर नेविगेटिंग द इंटेलेक्चुअल स्ट्रीट्स ऑफ न्यूटेंस इन दिल्ली. ओके, देन करी. सो करी इज हियर, यू कैन मैच. A queer woman navigating heartbreak, isolation, and advertising job in smog city, that is Mumbai. Adi Parva, you have the Ganga casting the river as a female narrator retelling the roots of the Mahabharata. So Adi Parva. Bimayana, B.R. Ambedkar utilizing Gond tribal art. This is the tribal community. Gond tribal art structures instead of standard Western comic grid frames. Okay. Vimayna, it is by Durga Bai and Subhash Vyam. Now see this question. अब मैं साइड में आ जाती हूँ. Who delivered the historic inaugural presidential address at the first conference of the Progressive Writer Association in Lucknow 1936, declaring that literature must change its standard of beauty? Mulk Raj Anand, सज्जाद जहीर, मुंशी प्रेमचंद और सादत हसन महतो. अब इस टाइप का क्वेश्चन आ जाता है, then how you will you tackle? Who delivered the historic inaugural presidential address at the first conference of the Progressive Writer Association held in Lucknow 1936? Okay, they declared that Indian literature's standard must be changed. Standards of beauty must be changed. So it is Munshi Premchand. Okay, remember. Premchand 1936 address famously shifted the role of the Indian writer away from the romantic escapism, stating that literature must evaluate the hard realities of poverty, caste, and the social labor. So that was the concern. Now see this question. ये repeated writers हैं आपके. The character Moselle, a free-spirited Jewish woman who sacrificed her life to save a Sikh couple during the communal madness of partition, was created by which iconic writer? So Moselle character जो एक Jewish woman है जो अपनी लाइफ को सेक्रीफाइस कर देता है एक सिख कपल को सेव करने के लिए एक पार्टीशन के राइट्स में, तो इसमें ये कैरेक्टर मोजेल किसने क्रिएट किया है? इश्मत ने, सादत ने, राजिंदर सिंह बेदी ने या फिर भीष्म साहनी ने? So this character is created by Sadat Hassan Manto. In his story, Moselle. In his short story, Moselle. So Moselle is the character and Moselle is the title of the short story. Manto uses a non-Muslim, non-Hindu protagonist to critique the arbitrary, brutal lines drawn by communal identity during the partitions. Okay. Which Urdu masterpiece by Rajinder Singh Bedi translated into English as I Take This Woman? Masterpiece Urdu translated as I Take This Woman features the character Rano, who is forced by custom to marry her deceased husband's younger brother Mangal. एक चादर मैली सी, टेढ़ी लकीर, अंगारे और तमस. ये आपका PYQ का क्वेश्चन है. एवरीवन प्लीज डू प्रैक्टिस. सो विच उर्दू मास्टरपीस बाय राजिंदर सिंह बेदी, जिस वर्क को इंग्लिश में आई टेक दिस वुमेन एज ट्रांसलेटेड किया गया है और उसमें कैरेक्टर आपकी रानो है, द फीमेल कैरेक्टर, जिसको फोर्स किया जाता है कस्टम के अकॉर्डिंग दैट शी मस्ट मैरी हर हस्बैंड्स younger brother who has died. Her husband is died. Now she needs to marry younger brother whose name is Mangal. So it is option C. नहीं, अंगारे नहीं, अंगारे दूसरा है. एक चादर मैली सी. तो यहाँ पे कस्टम की बात की जा रही है, रानो की बात की जा रही है, रंजीत सिंह बेदी भी है. सो रंजीत सिंह बेदी इज द राइटर. रंजीत से राजिंदर से लेकर आएंगे कैरेक्टर रानो पे जो कस्टम और मंगल से शादी करते हैं. ओके. So Bedi's novella, this is the novella, looks closely at patriarchal survival strategies, domestic abuse and the economic burden placed upon lower middle class women in, you won't believe कि अभी will discuss later, अभी time नहीं है. Now which 1932 short story anthology banned by the British government is universally considered the spark that led to the formal creation of the Progressive Writers Association? 1932 शॉर्ट स्टोरी एंथोलॉजी ब्रिटिश ने उसको बैन कर दिया था जो यूनिवर्सली एक स्पार्क के जैसे उभर कर आया. कफन, अंगारे, मॉर्टल डॉन और लिहाफ. आंसर भी देख लिया. सो करेक्ट आंसर अंगारे. Remember Angare, published in 1832 by Sajjad Zahir, Ahmad Ali, Rashid Jahan, and Muhammad Uz Zafar. This explosive text attacked orthodox religious customs, leading to immediate colonial censorship and triggering the formation of the PWA, जिसमें मुंशी चंद प्रेम ने बात की है कि ब्यूटी ऑफ स्टैंडर्ड की बात होनी चाहिए लिटरेचर में. अंडरस्टैंड. सो अंगारे इज द वर्क 1832 ब्रिटिश ने बैन कर दिया था. Now which experimental Indian graphic novel by Sarnath Banerjee explores the historic colonial era, search for a legendary digital plant through the archives of the East India Company, the Harappa Files, the Barn Owl's Wondrous Capers, Sita's Ramayana, or All Quiet in Vikaspuri? Experiment Indian graphic novel by Sarnath Banerjee that explores the historic colonial era. So this will be the Barn Owl's Wondrous Capers. Okay. Banerjee uses fragmented comic structure to explore the secrets of 18th century Calcutta, combining the colonial history of the urban myth. Do not miss the class, everyone. Character-based questions we have done a lot, but this question for the last moment because Indian literature. So you have to match the partition place with their foundational central characters and their narrative strategy. So not only the characters but यहाँ पर आपका theme भी clear हो जाएगा. Okay. So तुगलक नाम पे ही पता लग रहा है, सामने ही है. तुगलक 1964. Remember 1964 are the year for many important incidents and work. You have a Birmingham School in Cultural Studies same year, and there are so many. Girish Karnar, 1964 is also that no longer at is. Arrow of God by Chinua Achebe, the trilogy, African trilogy again, and there are also so many. Girish Karnar Muhammad bin Tughlaq, whose chaotic, idealistic, and violent 14th century reign acts as a direct historical allegory for the disillusionment of Nehruvian India and the trauma of partition. So Tughlaq, Girish Karnar, remember the character Muhammad bin Tughlaq, and there are so many other characters we have solved. Asghar तमस इट इज एन एडाप्टेशंस बाय भीष्म साहनी. सो भीष्म साहनी का तमस बहुत ही पॉपुलर एंड रिपीटेड वर्क है. यहाँ पे कैरेक्टर यू आर गोइंग टू फाइंड नथु, अ लो कास्ट टैनर हु इज ट्रिक्ड इनटू killing a pig, an act that unwittingly triggers a horrific communal riot across the town. ये बहुत होता है. Now, Seven Steps Around the Fire, 1999 by Mahesh Dattani. So here, Anarkali and Uma Rao, an intersectional exploration of violence against the Hijra community, highlighting how society partitions marginalize the bodies. Okay. Seven Steps Around the Fire, Mahesh Dattani. Anarkali character, Uma Rao character, Hijra community is mentioned here. और कितने partition. This is the play by Kamleshwar. It is a symbolic courtroom where historical figures like Hitler, colonial partitioners are put on trial for dividing human geography. So this will be the correct answer. Now again, you have to match the novel writers with their central character and backdrop. So Hungry Tide, Amitabh by Amitabh Ghosh, 2004. Animals People by Indra Sinha, The Gun Island by Amitabh Ghosh, and Latitudes of Longing by Shubhangi Swaroop. So the Hungry Tide, remember the character you have here, Pia Roy and Fakir that told you, Indian American catalogist and a local crab fisherman navigating the dangerous shifting tides of the Sundarban. Okay, so these are the key words you can associate it with the hungry. Animals People by Indra Sinha. Animal here, a young boy left permanently crawling on all fours due to catastrophic toxic chemical leak in the fictional city of खौपुर. खौफपुर. खौफपुर. ओके, हिंदी में लिखेंगे खौफपुर. खौफपुर. सो ये फिक्शनल टाउन है. एनिमल्स पीपल बाय इंदिरा सिन्हा में यू कैन फाइंड दिस based on the Bhopal gas tragedy. Okay, 1984 Bhopal gas tragedy. Now the Gun Island by Amitabh Ghosh. Here you are going to find the character Deena Datta. Deen Datta. Deen Datta, a rare book dealer tracking the myth of Mansa Devi, the snake goddess. Mansa Devi is the snake goddess in the Gun Island to expose the modern climate-induced mass human migrations. Okay. Latitudes of Longing we have by Subhangi Swaroop. The earth itself, a deeply poetic non-linear test mapping the geological faults across the Andaman Island. Let me show you few important questions to leaves and the bird. Arkin final solutions. Mahesh Dattani, leaves and the bird. Two leaves and the bird was there, na? So this question, असगर वजाहत, इंग्लिश ट्रांसलेशन में इनको पूछा जाता है एवरीवन. चलिए ये देखिए. In Amitabh Ghosh's climate fiction masterwork The Hungry Tide, which real-life tragic 1979 historical event is reconstructed to show the conflict between elite environmental conservation and subaltern refugee survival. Bhopal gas disaster, Narmada Bachao movement, Marichi Jhapi, मसाकिर और चिपको मूवमेंट. व्हेन डिड दिस हैपन? इसके बारे में तो पता है. ये इंसिडेंट आई एम नॉट अवेयर. Maybe I would have skipped, missed. So Amitabh Ghosh क्लाइमेट फिक्शन मास्टर वर्क की बात की जा रही है. तो क्या हो जाएगा, द वही है जो नहीं पता है। तो एक ये भी ट्रिक यू कैन यूज ना कि यू नो अबाउट ऑल द इंसिडेंट्स, उससे रिलेटेड अगर क्वेश्चन आता है तो यू कैन इजिली गेट। बट इफ यू फाइंड सर देयर इज अननोन राइटर, अननोन वर्क, सो अननोन कॉन्सेप्ट एंड द क्वेश्चन इज ऑल्सो स्ट्रेंज फॉर यू, सो यू कैन टिक दैट वन, यू कैन रिलेट टू दैट वन। ओके, सो यहाँ पर हंगरी टाइड में इन्होंने ये वाला इंसिडेंट मेंशन किया है, द मारी झापी मरीच मरीच झापी massacre. Ghosh weaves the actual historical clearing of East Bengali Dalit refugees from the Marich Jhapi island. अच्छा, ये ईस्ट बंगाली दलित refugees थे, by the left front government into his text, exposing how green politics is also mentioned here, can sometimes silence subaltern human lives. So very important. एक ये क्वेश्चन भी important है. Now, which minor 19th century text written by Lal Bihari Dev provides an unromanticized detailed look at the rural peasant life and agricultural ecosystem of Bengal? Govind Samanta or the History of Bengal Riot, the Peasant of Bihar, Land System of Bengal, or the Field of the Cloth of Gold. So it is Govind Samanta or the History of the Bengal Riot, written in English by a Christian convert. This text is a vital precursor both the realistic novel. Okay, let's see some other important questions. One second. ये है important, सुखदेव ढिल्लो पूछे जा चुके हैं. So the question is, which critically acclaimed 1974 partition play by Sukhdev Dhillo and later adapted by Standard Progressive Group features the structural metaphor of divided courtyard angan to mirror the domestic splitting of women's spaces, border and boundaries. Angan translated from Khadija Mastoor's novel. Okay, the shadow lines and moated dawn place. So it is correct answer Angan. Mastoor's Angan translated into English as the women's courtyard. Angan, the area in front of the house. A feminist classic that looks at the national struggle and partition. Okay. अब ये एक देख लेते हैं. Then we can the writers skip this. Indian poets you have to arrange them in chronology as per the birth. चलिए अरेंज करिए इसको. Michael Madhusudan Dutt, Henry Louis Vivian Delosio Toru Dutt, Sarojini Naidu. You have to arrange them. And here are the options. Quick. As per their birth, you have to arrange them. You have to answer the or this in the comment section. Okay, then after this, you have to arrange the iconic big three founders similarly. पता ही है, पहले मुल्क राज आनंद, इसको भी आप कमेंट करिए आंसर. Now, solve this question. Arrange the following major philosophical and poetic works of Sri Aurobindo in their correct chronological order of publication in book form. Savitri, The Life Divine, Essay on Gita, and The Synthesis of Yoga. Options. Be quick. So correct answer, option 1. Okay, Life Divine 1939 to 40. Remember, Synthesis of Yoga 1948. Essay on Gita 1922. And Savitri 1950. So you can arrange this. Now let's chronological sequence Rabindranath Tagore's work Gora, Ghare Bair, Chokhar Bali and चार अध्याय. बहुत सारे वर्क हैं इनके, बहुत सारे. Gora previously you have found this question in the matching form. So at least identify these works with the writer. Okay, even if you're not getting the right answer, you can just identify. So remember, Chokir Bali 1903, Gora 1910, Ghare Bair 1916, Char Adhyay 1934. Okay. Now you have to arrange Rabindranath Tagore's their work in chronological again. The Post Office, Red oleanders, chitra and sacrifice. बाकी के ऑप्शंस नीचे हैं. पोस्ट ऑफिस, रेड ओलिएंडर्स, चित्रा एंड सेक्रीफाइस. विसर्जन, डाकघर, रक्त करावी. चित्रा इज चित्रा. पोस्ट ऑफिस, रिमेंबर घरे बैर, बोरा. जी से सी से ज्यादा नाम है रविंद्रनाथ टैगोर के. सो चित्रा सेक्रीफाइस 1890. रिमेंबर Chitra sacrificed 1890, Chitra 1892, post office 1912 after 2 years of Bora, and red oleanders 1926. Then we have arranged the following specific prose non-history Aurobindo ka Secret of the Yoga, Human Cycle, Future Poetry and Foundations of Indian Culture in chronology. So here you must remember, okay? Title we have found out. So your Secret of the Veda serialization, it was 1914 after the 2 years of 4 years of Gora and 2 years of just you solve the questions. Human Cycle text 1949 Rabindranath Tagore. Foundations of Indian Culture 1953, The Future Poetry 1953. Both have the same 1914 you will start and 1914 then 1953. Now arrange these Tagore's poetry in chronological sequence. Gitanjali, Sonar, Tori and the Gardener, Balka. Balka. Balak, Gardener, Sonar, The Golden Boat, or Gitanjali, Song of Wings, English version. English version. English version. So remember the year. Sonar, Tori, Bengali, 1894, Gitanjali, English version, 1912, The Gardener, 1913, and Balaka, 1916. Okay, everyone. Now, B.R. Ambedkar's work you have to arrange. So you have, yes, I got the question first. Annihilation of caste, the problem of rupee, its origin and its solution. इसी की बात कर रही थी मैं. Long title is so I forgot. Untouchables, who were they and why they became untouchables? सिर्फ untouchables you can remember, not the subtitle. Okay. The Buddha and his Dhamma. You have to arrange them in chronological sequence. Quickly. So that's why I stopped solving the questions and I've showed all the writers, the work, Dalit and Indian. So now it will be easier for you to solve the questions. Okay. So I told you 1948 it was started, but the first was problem of the rupee, the very first. So correct answer you will have option B. Okay. The problem of rupee it will be the first always. So the problem of rupees because it was appeared in 1923. 1923, then 1936, Annihilation of Caste and the Untouchable 1948, the Buddha and his Dhamma 1957. Remember no? Problem of rupee 1923 में problem rupee हुआ, then he started he started facing the caste system 1936, then untouchability again 1948 and Buddha and his Dhamma 1957 he moved on to. Now these are all the all the works by B.R. Ambedkar. So please at least identify castes in India, their mechanism, genesis and development, thoughts on Pakistan, who were the Shudras, leaders in the Hinduism. So as per the year, you do remember caste in India, paper presentation, it was 1916, thoughts on Pakistan 1940, who were Shudras 1946, leaders in Hinduism 1987. Now you have to arrange the Amitav Ghosh work in correct chronological order. Circle of Reason, Shadow Lines, In an Antique Land, The Glass Palace. So we have to finish the world literature also. So let's finish this fast. Remember the year, okay? The Circle Reason 1886, Shadowline 1988, In an Antique Land 1992, Glass Palace 2000. पैलेस को बिल्कुल लास्ट में लेकर जाना है. ये भी है, प्लीज देख लीजिए एक बार. इनको भी रीऑर्डर करना है. सो ग्रेट डिरेंजमेंट, क्लाइमेट चेंज एंड द अनथिंकेबल, द नटमेग स्कर्ट्स, दिस इज द PYQ, पैराबल फॉर अ प्लांट इन क्राइसिस, Smoke and Ashes, Writer's Journey, and The Hungry Tide. So see the year, Hungry Tide 2004, The Great Erasmus 2016, The Nutmeg's Curse 2021, and Smoke and Ashes 2023. So you will start with The Hungry Tide in such case, okay? Now solve this question. The big three of Indian English fiction. Untouchable, Swami and Friends, Kanthapura, The Guide. Put them in correct chronological sequence. The big three, remember, Mulkraj Anand, R.K. Narayan, Raja Rao, collectively known as the big three of the Indian literature. Untouchable, 1935. Swami and Friends, 1935, same. Kanthapura, 1938. Guide, 1958. Okay. So A, B, C, D. Now Nizim Ezekiel का वर्क भी बहुत आता है, so please try to get that trick. This is the time to change. This is the time to write 60 poems with the exact name in darkness, without darkness, and then you have letter day Zalms. So a time to change will be the first 60 poems, then exact name, and the last will be Zalms. Okay. So ये एक अच्छी ट्रिक है, ऐसे याद नेक्स्ट टाइम ना इस तरीके के निमोनिक्स और बनाऊंगी मैं बैठकर. Now try to arrange this also. Train to Pakistan, Kushwant Singh, Azadi, Chaman Nahal, please, this is also very important. अब जो वहां पर कुछ मेंशन नहीं था वो यहाँ पे आपका क्लियर हो जाएगा. आइस कैंडी मैन, बाप से सीधा, रिमेंबर द वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कैरेक्टर यू हैव हियर. भूल गई. देयर इज अ यंग गर्ल, जेनी ऐसे कुछ नाम है. क्लियर लाइट डे, अनीता देसाई. ये भी आपका पार्टीशन नॉवेल है, आइस कैंडी मैन. इसका एक और टाइटल है, कमेंट क्या है इसका दूसरा टाइटल. आइस कैंडी मैन में वापसी सीधवा. ये सब हमने एमए में पढ़ा है. So it will be the correct answer. Train to Pakistan 1956, Azadi by Chaman Nahal 1975, Clear Light Day 1980 by Anita Desai, and Ice Candyman Vapsi Sidhwa 1988. Okay. Now let's put the correct chronological order in publication. Kamla Markandeya's work, Nectarine Sea, Some Inner Fury, A Silence of Desire, and The Nowhere Man. Kamla Markandeya, Nectarine Sea, very important book. So remember the year, Nectarine Sea, 1954. Waiting for Godot, English translation. Version Some Inner Fury, 1955, just after the 1 year. A Silence of Desire, 1960. Then you have after 5 years, The Nowhere Man, 1972. The last will be. Now let's match, arrange these the place in English translation. Tughlaq, Girish Karnad, Silence the Court is in session. Vijay Tendulkar, Evam Indrajit, Badal Sirkar. Final solutions, Mahesh Dattani. So remember the year only. Tughlaq, Kannada and translation version 1964. Silence the Court is in session 1967. Evam Indrajit translation 1970s, and original final solution 1993. So original production of translation Evam Indrajit 1963. Everyone, please do remember. Now Dalit literature, you must rearrange these autobiographies. Then we will go to the world literature. Amar Jiban, The Prison We Broke, My Story, Reveries of an Solitary Traveler. Women's autobiographies mix Indian literature, memoirs. So we have first Amar Jiban 1876. Amar Jiban, it's Amar Jiban, Amar, it's Bengali work है ये, शायद नाम से ही पता लग रहा है. My Story 1976, ये 1876, ये 1976. My Story, Kamla Das. The Prison We Broke, original Gina Amucha 1986. Okay. एस्ट्रोलॉजी बता दिया था मैंने आपको. बता दिया था. ये सारे एस्ट्रोलॉजी की कैरेक्टर्स यू हैव टू अरेंज देम. Now, if the Iblis trilogy में first आपका option कौन सा आएगा? Sea of Poppies, River of Smoke and Flood of Fire. और पहले कौन सा आएगा? River of Smoke, Sea of Poppies और Flood of Fire. So remember पहले S आएगा, फिर आपका R आएगा, फिर आपका सर्फ बनाना है आपको. सर्फ बनाना है, ठीक है? तो ये आपका करेक्ट ट्रिलॉजी बनेगा. सी पहले, फिर रिवर, फिर आपका ये आएगा. सी रिवर एंड फ्लड ऑफ फायर. Now do this last question. Salman writes this work, you have to put in correct chronology. Midnight Children, Shame, The Most Last Sigh, The Ground Beneath Her Feet. Correct. Remember the year, then ऐसे क्वेश्चंस को ऐसे ही क्वेश्चंस आते हैं मेजरली ना. यहाँ पे हम ईयर को मेमोराइज करने में भी गेट स्टक, राइटर्स को मेमोराइज करने में भी फील स्टक, एंड मिडनाइट चिल्ड्रन. सो करेक्ट आंसर विल बी मिडनाइट चिल्ड्रन फर्स्ट, देन शेम. Okay, then you have the most last sigh, and the last one will the ground beneath her feet. Let me check if there is anything important, then we will go to the world literature. एक these days these type of questions are very much popular everyone, so you have to match the mind major characters with the R.K. Narayan's novels. The character you have Rosie, Marco and Raju, Natraj Vasu, Srinivas Sampath, and Jagan Mali. Here are the works: The Guide, The Man-Eater of Malgudi, Mr. Sampath, and The Vendor of Sweet. So Rosie, Marco, Raju appears in the guide. So A will be with first. Natraj Vasu, Malgudi, okay, Eater of Malgudi, Srinivas the Sampath, Mr. Sampath, and the Jagan and Mali, the characters you can find in the vendor of sweets. Characters are important. Now see this one important question too. Amitav Ghosh, the shadow line is explicitly structured into which two specific geographic and psychological parts? So it is ऑप्शन ए पार्ट वन गोइंग अवे एंड पार्ट टू कमिंग होम. सो ये आपका जो स्ट्रक्चर है वो ऐसे शो करता है कि पार्ट वन में गोइंग अवे इट शोज एंड पार्ट टू टू व्हेन ही रिटर्न्स, सो कमिंग होम. ओके, नाउ दिस क्वेश्चंस एवरीवन सी. Which minor Indian English novel by Anita Desai uses the eccentric character Niroda, who tries to survive as a bohemian artist? Okay, so it is the correct answer, Voices in the City. Bohemian artist Niroda, the character in Anita Desai's novel, and the novel is Voices in the City. Okay. Now the question is, in Mahesh Dattani's landmark play Dance Like a Man, the generational clash and struggle for artistic space are centered around which classical dance form? So Dance Like a Man है, so if the center around which dance form, so it is option B, Bharatanatyam will be the correct answer. Okay. Now let's move on to the world literature. So now let me discuss few important things before moving on to the questions. Okay. So Canadian and Australian literature we will see first. The very important and repeated writers we have Margaret Atwood. Okay, Margaret Atwood, The Handmaid's Tale is very important. 1985. Surfacing 1972. Themes that the writer has explored: ecofeminism and Canadian nationalism. Okay, Oryx and Craig 2003. They appears in matchology questions with the correct writer identification. The Blind Assassin 2000 ये आपका आ चुका है. एंड हर मोन्यूमेंटल क्रिटिकल वर्क सर्वाइवल ये आपका 2025 दिसंबर में आया था मैचिंग में. ओके, सर्वाइवल अ थीमेटिक गाइड टू कैनेडियन लिटरेचर 1972. सो रिमेंबर टू एटलीस्ट आइडेंटिफाई द राइटर्स विद देयर करेक्ट year. So Margaret Atwood, remember, Canadian literature, Handmaid's Tale 1985, Surfacing 1972, Oryx and Craig 2003, Blind Assassin 2000, Survival Thematic Guide 1972. Then we have Michael Udadji. Michael Udadji, The English Patient 1992, In the Skin of a Lion 1987, and remaining things we will clear with the questions. Okay. And his post-colonial poetry prose Running in the Family in 1982. Alice Munro Nobel Laureate 2013. Alice Munro, very important. Dance of the Happy Shades 1968. The Lives of the Girls and Women 1971. And Too Much Happiness 2009. So remember the work and the year. Northrop Frye Critical Theory we have already practiced. Anatomy of Criticism 1957, The Bush Garden Essay on the Canadian Imagination 1971, where he has introduced the garrison mentality. Famous Canadian concept garrison mentality introduced by Northrop Frye in the work Essay on the Canadian Imagination. Robert Crush, we have the Stud Horseman 1969, which is highly repeated postmodern Canadian fiction you can remember. Now in Australian literature we have Patrick White. Patrick White was the only Australian Nobel laureate in literature. 1973 was 1957, ये आपका बहुत important है, based on the explorer Ludwig Leckart. Remember the name? The Tree of Man 1955, The Vivisector 1970, The Fringe of Leaves 1976. So the Patrick White, Australian writer, and now my tongue is started twisting. So the only Australian Nobel laureate in literature, Patrick Wright. Patrick White. A.D. Hope. A.D. Hope पोइट्री ऑस्ट्रेलिया 1939. रिमेंबर ऑस्ट्रेलिया से है और ऑस्ट्रेलिया नाम का वर्ग भी लिखा है और इनके नाम में भी ए है. Famously calling the country a nation of trees, drab green and desolate grey. A nation of trees, dark green and desolate grey, the death of a bird, the death of the bird. Judith Wright, very important, poetry, Bullock, woman to man, Bora ring, ये आपका आ चुका है, dealing with the erasure of Aboriginal culture. Peter Carey, Oscar and Lucinda 1988, very important. True History of the Cali Gang 2000, written in the vernacular voice of Bushranger, Ned Kelly. Then we have Jack Max 1997, a postmodern rewriting of Dickens' Great Expectations. So Jack Max 1997, Jack is the character who is replicating Pip. Okay, so postmodern rewriting of Dickens' Great Expectation novel. Sally Morgan, My Place 1987, ये आपका important है, a foundation Aboriginal life writing autobiography text dealing with the stolen generations. क्लासेस को पहले अगर अपलोड कर दिया जाता है ना, even though the many of you candidates do not watch, उनको लास्ट मोमेंट पे सब देखना होता है. David Malouf, An Imaginary Life 1978, centering on the Roman poet Ovid in exile. Remembering Babylon 1993, David Malouf, remember BD. Thomas Kennedy, Schindler's Ark 1982, very important, adapted into the film Schindler's List. तो ये आपका टाइटल और ये मूवी का वर्जन प्लीज डू रिमेम्बर. नाउ रिमेम्बर हियर 1957 पैट्रिक White, Australian epic, 1972 Surfacing, Margaret Atwood, Canadian ecofeminism, 1978 An Imaginary Life, David Malouf, Australian literature, post-colonial exile, 1988 Midnight Children, Salman Rushdie, The Handmaid's Tale, Atwood, the same year, 1988 Oscar and Lucinda, Peter Carey, Australian metafiction, Oscar and Lucinda. Now let's see the question. You have to find out that आंसर भी दिख गया, कोई बात नहीं. Northrop Frye coined the term garrison mentality in Canadian writing to describe a literary psychological condition where, so option B, characters build metaphorical walls to protect themselves from a harsh, menacing and unmapped nature. So option B, correct answer, garrison mentality. So its mentality is to build a metaphorical walls to protect themselves, okay, from a harsh, menacing. Try explain the early Canadian literature features of fear of empty, terrifying wilderness, forcing communities to look inward and develop a defensive, claustrophobic garrison. Okay. See the next question. Which Margaret Atwood novel features an unnamed protagonist, जिसका नाम नहीं है, who travels to northern Quebec to search? Remember, these are the PYQs. Okay. Quebec to search for her missing father, shifting into a deeply eco-feminist exploration of identity and wilderness. So which Margaret Atwood novel features an unnamed protagonist who travels to northern Quebec? Remember the keyword. So it will be option B, surfacing. Okay, surfacing is a 1972 work and it contrasts artificial American technology with the raw Canadian landscape, serving as a key text for ecofeminism. Now, most repeated PYQs of Australian writers we have match the postmodern Australian novel in column A with its direct English literary intertext and precursors. So you have Jack Max by Peter Carey, Was Patrick White, Folk by J.M. Gibbs. Correct answer. So Jack Max by Peter Carey, based on the 19th century German explorer Ludwig Leckart, was by Patrick White, rewriting of Charles Dickens' Great Expectations, and Foe by J.M. Keats, South African but often paired here. You can remember that Daniel Defoe's Robinson Crusoe. Okay. Now let's see the next question. In her poem Australia, which poet critically describes the country as the last of lands? Last of lands, the emptiest, lacking a traditional historical archive. So Australia, the name was A and also the A. Here is the options. So it is option C, A.D. Hope. Okay, A.D. Hope is the correct answer. Remember. So A.D. Hope, Australia is frequently quoted in the exam, remember, because of the quotations. One quotations you have seen, another one you found in the question. So it challenges the romantic myth of the bush, describing Australia as a cultural desert that might still offer an ultimate spiritual truth. Okay, bush green is also the concept related with Australian literature, everyone. So please do prepare. Now, Canadian literary theory based questions. इन हर ये क्वेश्चन आपका 2019, 22 एंड 2024 में रिपीट हुआ है. In her foundational critical text Survivor, a thematic guide to Canadian literature 1972, Margaret Atwood argues that the central organizing metaphor that dominates Canadian literature distinguish it from the American frontier myth of victory of, or the British myth of social code is which one? क्या आर्ग्यू करती है सेंट्रल ऑर्गेनाइजिंग मेटाफर दैट डोमिनेट्स कैनेडियन लिटरेचर सो इट इज ऑप्शन बी एब्सोल्यूट विक्टिमहुड एंड बेयर सर्वाइवल ओके सो बेयर सर्वाइवल एब्सोल्यूट विक्टिमहुड Atwood here notes that if the central motive of American literature is the frontier, that is conquest, so and British literature is the island, that is a social hierarchy. तो ये भी पूछा जा सकता है कि अमेरिकन को फ्रंटायर एज ए कॉन्क्वेस्ट एंड ब्रिटिश लिटरेचर को आइलैंड एज ए सोशल हायरार्की रिप्रेजेंट किया गया है. सो कैनेडियन लिटरेचर इज डोमिनेटेड बाय सर्वाइवल. सो कैनेडियन लिटरेचर का एक सर्वाइवल के तौर पे है अगेंस्ट अ हार्श क्लाइमेट एंड colonial इरेजर. ओके, नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन फ्रॉम द ऑस्ट्रेलियन लिटरेचर. ये आपका 2021, 24 एंड 25 में आया हुआ क्वेश्चन है. नाउ पीटर कैरिस जैकमैन 1997 is a celebrated example of postmodern historical metafiction. Which canonical 19th century Victorian novel does Carey rewrite from a subversion post-colonial Australian perspective? Peter Carey's novel Jack Max. So it was mentioned Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. Okay. Jack Mack here is a brilliant post-colonial reimagining of Charles Dickens' Great Expectations. Carey here reimagines the convict Abel Magwitch as Jack Max. So Jack Mack is not the paper but here Abel Magwitch. Using the character to critique the harsh treatment of convicts shipped to Australia and challenge Victorian England's cultural superiority. नेक्स्ट ये क्वेश्चन आपका 2018, 22 एंड 2024, 2018, 22 and 2024 में asked. In Patrick White's epic novel Was 1957, the protagonist Johann Ulrich Was is a German visionary who sets out a tragic, ill-fated expedition. Which specific geographical landscape is he attempting to cross? So कौन सा? So long answer the arid. The arid interior desert of the Australian outback. Okay, remember the character, work, writer, and the location that he wants to cross. Next question. Now, this is the question that has been asked 2020, 23, and 25. Which Booker Prize winning novel by Margaret Atwood utilizes a multi-layered story within a story technique featuring a sci-fi pulp novel written by a pair of clandestine lovers within a historical memoir compiled by an elderly woman named Iris Chase. So it is story within a story, sci-fi pulp, Booker Prize winning novel by Margaret Atwood and pair of clandestine lovers. Okay, so it is option B, The Blind Assassin. Correct answer, The Blind Assassin. Published in 2000, The Blind Assassin uses a complex narrative structure. It weaves together the life of Irish Chase McCord in Ontario with chapters from a pulp science fiction novella published by her dead sister, Laura, demonstrating Atwood's signature postmodern storytelling. Okay. Now, this question has been appeared in 1923 and 24. Same year, 2018-19, they don't appear, but they maintain a gap. I मैंने ये बताया हुआ है आपको. Now, Sally Morgan's landmark 1987 book, My Place, is a foundational work in post-colonial Australian studies. It is widely recognized as a major contribution to which of the following genres? Sally Morgan's landmark 1987, My Place. So genre you have to find out. It is Aboriginal autobiography, life writing on the stolen generations. Okay. So My Place is an autobiography where Morgan uncovers her hidden family history, discovering her Aboriginal heritage after years of her family passing as white or Indian view. So My Place, remember. Now this question is repeated in 18, 21 and 24. So you have to read this. A nation of trees, drab green and desolate grey. कहाँ mention था अभी just we have in the field uniform of modern bureaucracy, where second-hand Europeans polluted timidly on the edge of alien shores. Which poet wrote these lines? So it is A.D. Hope, Australia. Okay, A.D. Hope. These lines open A.D. Hope's famous 1939 poem, Australia. Next, this question is repeated in 2020 and 24. Alice Munro, who won the Nobel Prize in Literature in 2013, sets the vast majority of her complex psychologically dense short stories within which specific regional settings? Alice Munro. Just try to observe कि कौन से राइटर को ही मेजरली कैनेडियन और ऑस्ट्रेलियन का आप कर रहे हैं तो कौन से रिपीट किए गए हैं मेजर बार बार. ओके. So Alice Munro, Nobel Prize Literature 2013. The correct answer we have option B, the small rural towns of southwestern Ontario, that is Huron Country. Now 22 and 24 and 19, this question is repeated. David Malou's highly repeated novel An Imaginary Life 1978 steps outside of Australian geography to construct a post-colonial allegory of exile and language, which classical historical writer acts as Malou's protagonist. An Imaginary Life 1978, David Malou. Okay, so it is option B, Ovid in Exile at Promise. Next, this question is appeared in 18, 21 and 24. 3 years का gap दे रखा है इन्होंने. Now, Michael Udadzi celebrated novel The English Patient 1992 features a badly burned protagonist housed in an Italian villa at the end of World War II. Who is this mysterious English patient eventually revealed to be? So very important question. Option A, Hungarian desert explorer named Laszlo. Don't go. Laszlo Almezi. Okay. Michael Udadzi. Remember the work, An English Patient, and the name of the patient in it is Laszlo Almazi, which is a Hungarian desert explorer. Next, this question is from 22, 24, and 25. Peter Carey won his second Booker Prize for True History of the Kelly Gang 2000. What unique narrative technique distinguishes this postmodern historical novel? True History of the Kelly Gang 2000, Peter Carey. So it is option B, it is written in a raw, unpunctuated vernacular voice mimicking the semi-literate journal entries of the outlaw Ned Kelly. Okay, everyone. Now, this question is repeated in 21, 24, and 25. So, Margaret Atwood's Mad Adam trilogy explores genetic engineering and corporate greed. What is the title of the Foundation first novel 2003 in this speculative fiction series, narrated from the perspective of a survivor named Snowman? The Mad Adam trilogy by Margaret Atwood explores the genetic engineering. You have to find out in 2003 narrated form. First novel. कौन सा है वो first novel? It is Oryx and Craig. Okay, Oryx and Craig. So this novel actually is happening. Oryx and Craig launches Atwood's major ecotopian dystopian trilogy. It details a corporate-driven bio-apocalypse engineered by a scientist named Craig. Scientist है तो crack. The protagonist Jimmy, now called a snowman. Okay, so Jimmy he snowman and lives among genetically modified humanoids called the children of Craig. Okay, so Craig is the scientist. Jimmy is the protagonist who is also known as a snowman. Next, 1923 and 24. Which landmark Canadian novel by Robert Trottish is heavily repeated in post-structuralist questions for using a comic mythic structure to track the chaotic journey of a protagonist named Demeter Proudfoot, who is obsessed with breeding the perfect horse. Try to get the key horse carrying. यहाँ पे परफेक्ट हॉर्स कीवर्ड है कीवर्ड सो स्टड हॉर्स ओके स्टड हॉर्स 1969 it was published. Stud horse man won the governor general's award also. Remember Homer's Odysseys and subverting traditional. Next, Judith Wright's poem Bora Ring is a highly antholized post-colonial Australian text. What central theme does Wright confront in this poem? So it will be option C, the loss, silence, and tragic erasure of Aboriginal scared rituals and cultures. Okay. Bora Ring, remember, work by Judith Wright, Aboriginal Australian writer. Now, Margaret Atwood's novel Alice Grace, 1996, is based on the real life 1843 murders of Thomas Skinner and Nancy Montague. What narrative device does Atwood employ to question historical truth? So it will be option B. Margaret Atwood uses a shifting quilt pattern structure, mixing the historical documents with the unreliable subjective narration of the imprisoned servant girl Grace Marks. So remember the Alice Grace work by Margaret Atwood based on the real life murder. Okay. Next, in David Malak's acclaimed novel Remembering Babylon 1993, a white boy named Jamie Fairley is cast away as a child and raised by an Aboriginal tribe for 16 years before walking back into a white settler community. So this novel primarily explores David Malak's Remembering Babylon. So baby returns home and they remember that the baby is the child. Those settler anxieties regarding boundaries, the unmapped outback, the fear of losing European identity. ये 3 times repeated है आपका. So which Canadian novel by Kogawa is highly repeated in post-colonial and diaspora modules for exploring the historical trauma and forced internment of Japanese Canadian during World War I. Joy Kogawa's highly Canadian novel so it is Ubasan. ये 2026 जो आपके स्टेट सेट लेवल के एग्जाम्स हुए हैं उनके क्वेश्चंस हैं. क्वेश्चन देखते हैं then we can move on to the next one. Which Australian playwright wrote the landmark, highly controversial expressionist Gothic play The Cheated and the Dark Comedy, The Revivalist, 1971, to satirize the institutional violence and authority within the Australian suburban life? Australian playwright. Which Australian? So it is David Williamson. Okay, David Williamson. ये 2023 में आज आया है. So 3 years gap. Let's say this. Hopefully, finger cross. Because सभी में वो 3 years का गैप ले रहे हैं ना to repeat the question. So Ray Lawler's 1955 play Summer of the 17th Doll is a historically significant in Australian literary studies because it represents a major shift toward authentic Australian idioms, working class dynamics, and the subversion of the romanticized bushman myth. Okay. ये एक आपका टर्निंग पॉइंट माना जाता है ऑस्ट्रेलियन थिएटर में. रिमेंबर दिस फॉलोज टू itinerant sugarcane cutters. Okay, during the annual lay off season in Melbourne. Keyword को please try to get and then practice. So everyone, we have done Indian literature and Australian and Canadian literature. So now let's solve few questions based on Caribbean, Nigerian, and African literature. Okay. So first question we have here. See when the question was repeated, the year. Jean Rice's novel White Sargasso 1966 served as a post-colonial and feminist prequel to which 19th century Victorian novel? Okay. So remember Jean Rice's novel White Sargasso 1966 is a post-colonial and feminist prequel to which 19th century Victorian novel? So correct answer you have option B, Jane Eyre. Okay, remember this work is very important for the feminist literary criticism and many others perspective. White Sargasso gives a voice and history to Bertha Mason. The character Mad Woman in the Attic is a very important term from the writer Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre. Okay. Here he has reimagined as Antoinette Kossove. So Jane Eyre has become Antoinette Kossove. She is a white Creole heiress whose descent into madness is shown as a product of patriarchal abuse and cultural displacement. Okay, so please do remember. Next one we have Derek Walcott's book length epic. Derek Walcott's book length epic poem Omeros 1990. This is very important and repeated. 1990 rewrites Homeric with using which stanza form? Rhyme couplets, free verse, terza rima or the Ottawa rima. Derek Walcott's book epic poem Omeros. So it is correct answer terza rima. Okay. Omeros is composed in a flexible three-line stanza form, modeled on Dante's Terza Rima, adapting a classical Greek epics to tell the stories of poor Afro-Caribbean fishermen in Saint Lucia. So very important. Next one we have in V.S. Napol, A House of Mr. Biswas 1961, the sprawling house that represents the suffocating communal structures of the Indo-Trinidadian diaspora is known as the sprawling house that represents the suffocating communal structures of the Indo-Trinidadian diaspora. So that we have option A, the Tulsi house, okay, which is also known as Hanuman house. So Tulsi house where the character Mr. Biswas stays with his wife, and he was humorous and a very tragic character, you can say. Next question we have Samuel Salvonis, the The Lonely Londoners, 1956, is highly repeated in migration models for its distinctive narrative choice. So it is written in high class standard British English, Cockney rhyming slang, Creolized Trinidadian English vernacular, or standard French prose. So it is correct answer. Lonely Londoners, 1956 by Samuel Selvons. It is Creolized Trinidadian English vernacular. This work is written. So it is Salvan was among the first colonial writers to use Caribbean Creole dialect for both the character dialogue and the omniscient narrative voice. Okay. Next question we have which landmark historical and political text written by the Trinidadian scholar C.L.R. James in 1938 analyzes the 1791 Haitian Revolution under Tocien Lee the Black Jacobins, Minty Alley, Beyond a Boundary, or the Future in the Present. So correct answer you will have here the Black Jacobins. Okay, Black Jacobin is a foundational Marxist study of the Haitian Revolution. It reframes the uprising of enslaved people as a central event in the history of global anti-colonial resistance. Okay, so please do remember. Next question we have George Lemming's seminal autobiographical novel in the Castle of My Skin 1953, George Lamy charts a young boy's growth against the backdrop of anti-colonial labor strikes in which Caribbean island. So you have to find out the name of the island Trinidad, Jamaica, Barbados and Saint Lucia. So correct answer will be option C, Barbados. Okay. Now, novel here uses a building's Roma structure to document the protagonist's coming of age, which mirrors the political awakening and social changes taking place in mid 20th century Barbados, the island. Next question we have in Wild Sargasso Sea, 1966. What is the name of the Afro-Jamaican servant woman who practices Obia, folk magic, and serves as a protective maternal figure for Antoinette? So it is Emily, Christophine, Tia, or Grace Cole. So correct answer is option B, Christophine. Okay, remember from the work, the servant name Christophine. Christophine is represented as powerful, independent woman whose practice of obeah clarifies the English characters, making her a symbol of indigenous resistance against imperial authority. Next question we have which Caribbean writer wrote The Mystic Measure 1951 and The Mimic Man 1967, exploring the psychological alienation of post-colonial politicians who merely imitate their former masters? So the correct answer will be it is option B, B.S. Naipaul. Remember the works in the Mimic Man, Naipaul introduces the concept of colonial mimicry. Remember, examining how post-colonial leaders repeat European political models without achieving real independence. So both the works, the Mystic Measure and the Mimic Man, 1951 to 67, are by B.S. Naipaul. Next question we have. Kamau Barthwaite's highly repeated poetry compilation, The Arrivants, a New World Trilogy 1973, is composed of which three foundational volumes? Remember Kamau Barthwaite's uh, poetry compilation, The Arrivants, A New World of Trilogy 1973. So you have to find out the foundational volumes. So you have Omeros Star, Apple Kingdom, Sea Grapes, Rites of Passage, Masked Island, Minty Alley, Black Jacobins, Beyond the Boundary, Native of My Person, Water with Berries, or Pleasure of Exile. So correct answer you have option B, Rites of Passage, Masks and Islands. Please do eliminate the wrong options from your mind once you find out that this is not relevant to the questions. Next question we have the experimental novel Palace of the Peacock 1960, which uses a surrealist multi-ethnic dream quest through the Guyana interior dismantle colonial binaries, was written by Palace of the Peacock 1960, written by which writer? So we have option B, Wilson Harris. Okay, Wilson Harris, Palace of the Peacock is the first novel in Harris Guyana Quartet. It uses the fragmented timelines and spiritual imagery to subvert traditional linear historical narratives of the conquest. So remember. Next, which Trinidadian writer won the Commonwealth Writers' Prize for The Dragon Can't Dance 1979, a novel celebrating the street level resistance and carnival culture of a port of Spain. Orloff Lovelace, C.L.R. James, George Lamming, and Samuel Selvan. So it is Earl Lovelace. Okay. Next, the driving kind dance explores how urban slum communities use calypso music and carnival rituals to reclaim their dignity and resist economic displacement. So, try to get all the questions through the keyword, okay? And the writers too, it will be easier to solve the questions. Next one we have, what is the central critical premises of George Lemming's non-fiction text, The Pleasure of Exile 1960? George Lemming's non-fictional text, The Pleasure of Exile 1960, central critical premises. So it will be option B. The central premises is a post-colonial reading of Shakespeare's The Tempest, framing Caliban as the displaced colonial subject reclaiming language. Okay. Next one we have in Samuel Selvan's The Lonely Learners, the senior central immigrant figure. Now, Samuel Selvan's The Lonely 1956, who is the senior central immigrant figure who acts as an unofficial mentor to newly arriving West Indians, helping them navigate racism in London. So you have to find out the character. So we have Moses Aleta, serve a central focal point for the novel. Now, next question we have, which Caribbean born intellectual wrote the highly influential essay Discourse on Colonialism 1950 and Notebook of Return to the Native Land 1939, helping found the Negritude movement. So, Negritude movement, remember, option A, Amy Caesar. Negritude movement, Amy Caesar. Next one we have Mary's Conde's historical novel I, Tituba Black Witch of Islam, Salem 1986, reclaims the voice of an enslaved Barbadian woman caught up in which historical event. The name is also totally different and characters too. The Salem Witch Trials. Correct answer will be Salem Witch Trials. Next question you have the classic post-colonial essay, The Muse of History 1972, which rejects the linear trap of historical recrimination in favor of creative mythic Caribbean identity, was written by Muse of History 1972. So correct answer, option B, Derek Walcott. Okay. Which minor novel by V.S. Naipaul, published in 1957, uses an episodic satirical style to detail political campaigns and social rise of Ganesh Ram Sumer in rural Trinidad? Remember the character 1957, and it is a minor novel by V.S. Naipaul. So it is The Mystic Mazer. Okay. Next, this is the recent one. Edward Gleason's theoretical concept of poetics of relation 1990 challenges rigid national identities by advocating for. So, what was the advocating? Correct answer, you option B, cross-cultural rhizomatic connections, creolization and shared opacity. Gleason utilizes a botanical rhizome concepts to explain Caribbean identity as an ongoing fluid process of relation and cultural hybridization rather than an isolated image. Okay. Next question, what is the structural framework of V.S. Naipaul's Booker Prize winning text in a Free State 1971? Core structural framework of the work. So it will be option A. It was a collection of short stories and a central novella framed by entries from a traveler's journal exploring the displacement. Okay. Now, which Caribbean play by Derek Walcott, published in 1970, utilizes West Indian folklore song and dance to portray a poor charcoal burner's dream quest through the forest? So here charcoal, 1970, Derek Walcott's Caribbean play Dream Quest, Forest, dance to portray poor burner's dream. So it will be correct answer. You have option A, Dream on Monkey Mountain. Okay. So Monkey Mountain, monkey keep dancing here and there. Dream of Monkey Mountain won an Obie Award. It uses an expressionist framework to explore the psychological scars of colonialism and the search for authentic identity. Next question we have, which Kincaid's novel Annie John 1985, Jamaica Kincaid's novel Annie John 1985 is a classic post-colonial coming-of-age story set in which Caribbean nation? Antigua, Jamaica, Dominica, Grenada. So option A, Antigua will be the correct answer. Jamaica Kincaid, Annie John uses a building's Roman structure to trace a young girl's growth, linking her changing relationship with her mother to the broader theme of breaking away from the colonial authority. Then we have, which highly repeated essay by Jamaica Kincaid, published in 1988, delivers a harsh critique of the corrupting effects of modern tourism on her native islands of Antigua. Published in 1988, Jamaica Kincaid's essay, Island Mention Antigua. So which will be option A small palace, place. A small palace will be the correct answer. Okay. Next, Erna Broadber's experimental novel Jane and Louisa Will Soon Come Home 1980 is highly repeated in Caribbean diaspora. Questions for it use of. What is the use in this work? So it will be option B, Jamaican folk traditions, oral riddles, and an associative structure to map out an identity fractured by the colorism. Colorism. Next one we have, in Michelle Cliff's post-colonial novel Abeng 1984, the central character Claire Savage served as a symbol for Jamaica's complex history due to her status as. So remember Michelle Cliff's post-colonial novel Abeng 1984, there is a character Claire Savage who is symbolized as Jamaica's complex. So what is her status? Option B, a light-skinned Creole girl caught between her family's white planter ancestry and their hidden black heritage. Okay, so we have done with Caribbean. Now let's see some questions based on African and Nigerian literature. Okay, so the first question we have, which is very important, Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart 1958 depicts the pre-colonial life and subsequent colonial destabilization of which specific ethnic group in Nigeria? So correct answer is option B, Igbo society. Remember the first Chinua Achebe called the father of African literature. Okay, novel, father of novel. Okay, in African literature, 1958 trilogy. You can remember with this initial T and A, first published 1958. Things Fall Apart. Second, no longer at ease after 2 years. That is 1960, and after 4 years, that is 64. Arrow of God. Remember the character Urunko. The society represents Igbo and colonial disparison. Novel centers on Okonkwo and his village of Umofia. Okay. Next not character question. Wole Soyinka's play Death and King's Horseman 1975 is based on real historical events that occurred in Nigeria during which decade? 1800, 1940s, 1960s. So correct answer it 1940s. Okay. Set in 1943 during World War II, the play explores the cosmic consequences that unfold when a British colonial district officer intervenes to stop a traditional Yoruba. So Yoruba is associated with Bol Soinka, okay, Kenyan. Next, Ngogi Wa Thiong'o's decolonizing the mind. This is the work very important and repeated. Decolonizing the Mind is a critical text that calls upon African writers to stop producing their creative works in. So Ngugi Wa Thiong'o, Decolonizing the Mind, 1986. Correct answer, it will be option B, European colonial languages like English and French. Okay. This work highlights that all the African writers must stop producing their creative works in European or any colonial language like English or and French. Next question. Ben O'Cree's Booker Prize winning novel, The Famished Road 1991, utilizes which West Indian African folkloric concept as its central narrative device? Ben O'Cree's Booker Prize winning novel, The Famished Road 1991. Which West Indian African folkloric concept you are going to find in this work? So it is option B, the Abiku or the spirit child traditions. Okay. Protagonist here, Azaro, is an Abiku. Remember the character Azaro? Abiku, a spirit child who chooses to break his pact with the spirit realm to remain with moral parents. So remember, when of this work, Famished Road is very important. Character Azaro and was an Abiku. Now, Nadine Gordimer's novel July's People 1981 explores the breakdown of racial hierarchies in which national setting. July's People by Nadine Gordimer. Options and correct answer, it will be apartheid era South Africa. Okay. The novel here represents a speculative scenario where a white South African family must flee a violent revolution and seek shelter in the remote village of their black servant July. So this work, that is why called July's People. Next, Chimamanda and Ngozi Adichie, Half of a Yellow Sun 2006. World Literature PDF I have already shared. In this month, I shared the PDF where all the Caribbean writers, Caribbean, Nigerian, African, Canadian, and American, Australian, all the world literature writers, along with the work in chronology, themes they have explored, highlights, a concept they have given. Um, Everything was mentioned there. Okay, so not two depth questions we get from the world literature, but work and theme they will ask you, matching in chronology questions they will put. So not too depth. Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie's Half of a Yellow Sun 2006 uses a multi-perspective narrative to chart the human impact of which historical conflict? It is Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie's Half of a Yellow Sun. Option B, the Nigerian Biafran Civil War, which was from 1967 to 1970. Next question we have, in Chinua Acheb's Arrow of God 1964. The protagonist is Zulu. Serves as the high priest of which traditional deity? Arrow of God, the African trilogy. So it is Ulu. Option B will be the correct answer, Ulu, the third part of the African trilogy. Next, Volsoinka's satirical play, The Trials of Brother Jero, 1960, critiques social hypocrisies in independent Nigeria by targeting which figures? So, Volsoinka's satirical play, The Trials of Brother Jero, 1960, targets the hypocrisy of corrupt self-styled beach prophets and religious charlatans. charlatans. Next, which Kenyan writer wrote Petals of Blood 1977? A novel that uses a detective mystery. So in this work, you're going to find detective mystery structured to deliver a Marxist critique of neo-colonial corruption in post-independence Africa. So it will be Petals of Blood. It is written by Ngugi Wa Thiong'o. Okay. Next question we have. Now, Emma Stutola's experimental novel, The Palm Wine Drink Card 1952. gained international attention for its distinctive style, which can be described as Palm Wine Drinkard 1952, Amos Kitola, experimental novel, which is the distinctive style that this work become popular. It is modified vernacular young English or Nigerian pidgin syntax mixed with traditional Yoruba folk tales. Okay, Yoruba folk tales. Next question we have. Which South African writer won the Nobel Prize in 2003 and wrote Disgrace 1999? A novel addressing post-apartheid social shifts and power dynamics through the story of David Lurie. Kids, Godimer, Alan Patton, or Athel Fugard. So it is option A, J.M. Kids. Okay. Disgrace novel is written by J.M. Kids. Next, Bessie Head's novel A Question of Power, 1973, is highly repeated in post-colonial feminist questions for its psychological examination of exile, madness, and racism in which setting. A Question of Power, Bessie Head's. It is a novel. Correct answer, it's option B, Botswana. In Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart, 1958, what is the name of the young hostage boy from the neighboring Mebeno village who is cared for by Okonkwo's family before being killed under tribal orders? So characters are very important. Everyone, do watch the character-based class. The name of the boy was Ikemfuna. Forms a close bond with Okonkwo's son Noi. Boy. So Noe was his son. Komfuna was the boy, and Kompo is the central character. Next, which Nigerian playwright wrote The Gods Are Not a Blame 1968, a classic post-colonial adaptation that transposes Sophocles' Oedipus Rex into a traditional Yoruba kingdom. So, which Nigerian playwright has done this? The Gods Are Not to Blame 1968 adapted the Sophocles Oedipus Rex. It is option A, Ola Rotimi. Ola Rotimi. Okay. So Rotimi's adaptation frames the classic Greek tragedy within a West African cultural context, exploring the themes of destiny. South का north में आ जाता है, north का south में चला जाता है. The mix of leadership, regional rivalries through the king Odebel. Remember the king name. Next, Flora Wapas Ifuru. Very important. Flora Wapas Ifuru 1966 holds a significant place in African literary history as Flora Nwapa Ifuru. Flora Ifuru. Oh God. The name is correct answer option B. The first internationally Flora Nwapas Ifuru, the work first internationally published book by a black African woman writer in English. That's why this work is important. Black African woman. And it was published as part of Hanneman's African Writers series. Ifuru offers an internal perspective on Igbo women's lives. Igbo society, Nigerian writer. Okay. Next question we have, which novel by Ngugi wa Thiong'o published in 1965 explores the generational and ideological splits within a village caught between Christian missionaries and traditional practices? So it is option B, The River Between. And the novel centers on Waiyaki and the physical and cultural divide between the two regions of sorry, it's Camino and Makiu, which symbolizes, extremely sorry, Camino and Camino, both will be the pronunciation, symbolizes the broader conflict over European influence and traditional Gikuyu values. Gikuyu, Yoruba, Igbo, there are so many different cultural societies. Now, next question. In J.M. Kidd's Life and Time of Michael K. 1983, the protagonist Michael K. travels through a war-torn landscape to return his ailing mother to her rural birthplace. Now, what physical trait defines him? So, ailing, return his ailing mother. The mother was ill. So, physical trait defines him. It was option B. He is born with a hair lip which isolates him from the social structures. Michael K's physical disciplines and speech challenges deepened his isolation, framing his journey through a country fractured by civil conflict. Okay, everyone. So much tired. Let's move on. Which South African anti-apartheid play, co-authored by Ethel Fugard, John Canny, and Winston Shona in 1973, uses a play within a play format featuring Sophocles' Antigone inside the Robben Island prison. Again, Sophocles, Antigone. Antigone protagonist. Correct answer. Island. Sizwe Bansi is dead. Master Harold. So correct answer is option E, the island. The island uses the story of Antigone's defiance against Creon to parallel the real world struggles of political prisoners. Everybody do take a deep sleep before reaching to the center. कोई जरूरत नहीं है पूरी नाइट उल्लू की तरह जागने और पढ़ना. Next question. Now, Bucci Bucci Emecheta's highly repeated novel. The Joys of Motherhood 1979 uses an ironic title to explore the sacrifices and societal pressures faced by a woman named No Ego in which setting? कौन से work? So it is 20th century colonial and urbanizing Nigeria, Lagos. What is the central narrative focus of Christopher Okigbo's poetry compilation Labyrinths 1971? So Christopher Okigbo poetry compilation Labyrinths 1971. Correct answer option B. Compilation Labyrinth is the work 1971. It explores a spiritual and mythic quest exploring individual sacrifice, their cultural roots, and oncoming trauma of the Biafran War. Now let's move on to the next question. Which contemporary Nigerian novelist won the Bailey Women's Prize for Fiction for Purple Hibiscus 2003? तो पर्पल हिबिस्कस जिसका वर्क है उन्होंने ही जीता होगा एंड डिलीवर्ड द फेमस टेड टॉक द डेंजर ऑफ अ सिंगल स्टोरी. सो पर्पल हिबिस्कस 2003 चिमामांडा गुजी अडिची. Remember the danger of a single story. The allegorical novel A Dance of Forest 1960, commissioned to mark Nigeria's independence but chosen to deliver a warning about political corruption rather than empty praise, was written by A Dance of Forest. It is Paul Soinka. Okay. Next question. We have done now. We have finished 47 questions. So the 47 question we have solved just those were the PYQs. Okay. And if you want to solve more questions, so it is here. Remember now, House of Mohan Viswas. Mohan Viswas struggled to own a house of his own is a post-colonial allegory through individual by V.E.S. Napol and independence away from colonial and communal control. Tulsi family, you have Tulsi character, you have. Now let's move on to the American literature. African trilogy. Do you remember what is mentioned? No longer it is. At is 1960 forms the second part of the HEV's famous African trilogy, which concludes with Arrow of God, and the title is drawn from T.S. Eliot's poem Journey of the Magi. So the first one was a second coming, Things Fall Apart in the Second Coming by W.B. Yeats, and No Longer It is a Journey of the Maggie by T.S. Eliot. So this is very important point you please do remember. And that was the question here. That Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart 1958 derived its iconic title from poem of W.B. Yeats, which novel by Achebe acts as the direct chronological sequel, tracing the moral corruption of Okufo's grandson Obi Okonkwo, who works as a civil servant in pre-independence Lagos. So it was T.S. Eliot's Journey of the Maggie. There are a lot more helpful questions. Now let's see the American literature. We get not too many questions, but एनटी के मूड का आजकल कुछ अता पता नहीं है, कुछ भी पॉसिबल है. So American literature majorly characterized by the search for unique national identity. We will discuss only about the major and the repeated writers here. Okay. So the first one we have Rolf Waldo Emerson. Ralph Waldo Emerson, who was an American essayist, lecturer, philosopher, and poet. Okay, remember, Emerson is the father of American transcendentalism. Very important point: transcendentalism, Emerson, and he belongs to the transcendentalism poet. Remember all the works. Nature, 1836. This work appears too many times in the matching and chronology questions. So remember the year 1836. Okay, everyone. American Scholar 1837, Essay First Series 1841, Essay Second 1844, Representative Man 50, and Conduct of Life's Ways. So Nature and American Scholar are the important. And Immersion here introduces Oversoul. Okay, Oversoul. Is there anything? He was the intellectual figure of transcendentalism. Edgar Allan Poe, इनके बारे में you must know. Edgar Allan Poe is American poet, short story writer, father of detective fiction. He is majorly known as critic, best known for his tales of terror, mystery, and psychological horror. He is considered the pioneer of modern short story, the father of detective fiction, and a major figure in dark romanticism. Remember, first major theorist of the short story, and he also, the very important concept we get in the exam, developed the concept of unity of effect. Okay, इस पे ही ज्यादातर क्वेश्चंस आपको मिलेंगे. Unity of effect. Unity of effect, he said na that story must be read within 2 hours by one sitting. Okay, एक बार में story, if you have started reading, you should finish within 1 or 2 hours, not more than that. It makes the structure and flow of the story. It will make you more understandable. So that was unity of effect. Tamerlane and other poems, Al Era poems, Raven and other poems, Pit and the Pendulum. ये वाला वर्क इनका आता है The Telltale Heart 1843, The Fall of the House of Usher. These are the important, and इसके कैरेक्टर भी हमने किए थे. Usher नाम से ही कैरेक्टर है आपका. और ये किनका वर्क इंपॉर्टेंट है? पोएटिक प्रिंसिपल एंड फिलोसफी ऑफ कॉम्पोजिशंस. ओके, एडगर एलन पो. Now Poe as the father of the short story. Remember, the unity of effect, just I told you, read in one sitting, designed to produce a single emotional effect and must contribute to the effect. And philosophy of composition, 1846. Auguste Dupin introduced in the work The Murders in the Rue Morgue 1841 by Edgar Allan Poe. Okay, and he was influenced majorly by Arthur Conan Doyle and Sherlock Holmes tradition. And Auguste Dupin appears in which work? So The Murders in the Rue Morgue 1841, The Mystery of the Mary Roget, and The Purloined Letter. Black Cat is also the work The Raven. Next writer we have Henry David Thoreau. Remember, important. Thoreau was an American essayist, naturalist, and philosopher. He lived a life of moral protest, simplicity, famously spending time in Walden Pond. Remember Walden Pond. Thoreau practiced transcendentalism, immersion theorized it. So majorly immersion is associated with and civil disobedience influenced Gandhi and Mulk Raj, MLK, Martin Luther King Jr. And these are the works of civil disobedience. Now, civil disobedience, there was a question that Gandhiji took reference. So, it is a civil disobedience by डेविड थोरो 1849 का जो एक मोमेंट है गांधी जी का वॉल्डन ये आपका वर्क आता है वॉल्डन मेन वर्ड्स केप कॉर्ड वीक ऑन द कॉन्करेंट मेरिमिक्स वॉल्डन प्लीज डू प्रिपेयर नाथेनियल हॉर्टन एंड अगेन वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट इनके कम बस राइटर्स पूछ लिए जाते हैं जो मेजर है हमारे an American novelist, short story writer, descendant from Puritan ancestors. And he majorly focus on the theme sin, guilt, moral ambiguity, and Hawthorne belongs to also like Edgar Allan Poe, dark romanticism. The major important work you must know. He critiques Puritan society and remember the work Twice Told Tales. Moses from ये आपका आया हुआ है. Scarlet Letter, which is important. These are appear in the matching chronological matching questions. So Scarlet Letter. Now let's discuss few important things about the Scarlet Letter. इसके inside the chapters पे question आते हैं. 1850 was this work was published. Part of American Renaissance movement, dark romanticism, and it is a psychological novel. Okay. In setting is Massachusetts, Puritan Boston. So it is based on Puritan New England, focuses on religious rigidity, moral absolutism, and social hypocrisy. Here it reflects Hawthorne's Puritan ancestry and inherited guilt. Remember the characters Hester Perrin, who was a strong, dignified woman, symbol of female resilience, and transforms A. A here symbolizes as adultery, Abel, and angel. Okay. Arthur Dimmesdale, a minister, represents hidden guilt and psychological suffering. So Arthur Dimmesdale plays the role of her lover, and Roger Chillingworth, who was a husband. इन पे सभी पे क्वेश्चन आया हुआ है. Play a love interest, Arthur Dimmesdale, a minister. Roger Chillingworth, who left Hester Perrin. So it is and symbol of revenge and moral corruption. Pearl is the very important part, daughter of Hester Perrin, daughter of Hester and Chillingworth. Living symbol of sin, wild intuitive child and represents the natural truth. Okay. So the novel begins at Hester Perrin is punished for adultery, forced to wear a scarlet letter, that is A, and Arthur Dimmesdale, father of Pearl, suffers silently, and Roger Chillingworth seeks revenge. Okay. And then at the end, Dimmesdale confesses publicly, dies after revealing his guilt, and Hester continues her life of endurance. So, what does the symbol here symbolize? Is scarlet A, the letter, adultery, able angel, scaffold, public judgment, forest, freedom, natural law, and sunshine, truth and happiness. These are the symbol and the meaning you must remember. Now, Herman Melville is, again is an American novelist, poet, and sailor whose sea voyages strongly shaped his fictions. So, symbolism, philosophy, and existential inquiry that would be the major theme in his work. We are going to find American Renaissance. He majorly belongs to, and the important work Typee 1846, Omo 1847. And the title of the work are very short. Mardi 1849, Redburn 1849, White Jacket, Moby Dick. Moby Dick is Moby Dick. No, Moby Dick is very important work by Herman Melville. Remember the character Ishmael. Call me Ishmael. The tagline, which is very important. Fear and confidence man. So please do prepare about this and this. Moby Dick यहीं पे बता देते हैं. Narrator here is Ishmael, dedicated to Nathaniel Hawthorne. It is an epic genre, epic novel, and published in 1851. Remember, and the Captain Ahab you are going to find symbolizes monomania. So Moby Dick was ignored initially, later canonized, and it is a symbolic epic of the obsession. So Captain Ahab symbolizes monomania. It was inspired by whaling voyage. Initially, it was a commercial failure, जैसे movies होती हैं, and later it was recognized as masterpiece of American literature. Total, you have 135 chapters in Moby Dick, and narrator you have Ishmael, who is a narrator, reflective and philosopher observer. Captain Ahab, monomaniacal, obsessed with Moby Dick, represents human defiance. And Moby Dick, what is a Moby Dick? So Moby Dick is a white whale, okay, who is a symbol of ambiguity and nature's inscrutability. You have remember the work, the rhyme of the ancient mariner by S.T. Coleridge? And Queequeg, noble savage and challenges racial stereotypes. Remember all the characters I have mentioned. So symbol white whale is the symbol of ambiguity and unknowable truth. Sea is the symbol of chaos and infinity, and Pequod is symbol of microcosmos of a society. अहाब से स्कार, जो कैप्टन अहाब का स्कार होता है वो आपका सिंबल है मार्क ऑफ ऑब्सेशन. So there is one important point that I would like to add, and the very frequent PYQs is, although Moby Dick is not a Greek tragedy, but there is a question you must remember. Ahab fulfills most characteristics of a tragic hero. So there is a discussion between that whether Captain Ahab should be put in a tragic hero category or not. So novel status it is eventually not a tragic hero. Okay, as a classical tragic hero according to the Aristotelian framework. तो ये आपका बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, तो मैंने ये तब का नोट्स बनाया हुआ था. If only, as what Aristotle had said, that if he fulfill the hamartia, remember, then only. From Hell's Heart, so here Ahab's hamartia, monomaniacal obsession with the white whale, transforms a natural accident, loss of leg, into cosmic revenge. From Hell's Heart, I start at thee. This is the line by Ahab, Captain Ahab. Hubris, excessive pride. Ahab challenges nature, God, and fate, refuses human limitation and believes he can dominate the unknowable. So hubris, there he has excessive pride. Peripetia, so in terms of this, initially commands a powerful ship, ends with the destruction of the Packard, death of the entire crew except Ishmael. So all of the crew members died except Ismail saved only, survived. Anagnosis, all these terms applied by Aristotle. Okay, so do remember. So unlike Oedipus, Ahab also does not stop. So as per this, Ahab is Captain Ahab is a tragic hero with monomia, the final solution, as hamartia. Okay, his tragic arises from defiance of nature and fate. Ahab's fall is self-willed and inevitable, and Ahab is a modern tragic hero, not a classical one. Now another Emily Dickinson. छोटे छोटे pointers हैं, you can remember. Emily Dickinson, an American lyric poet who lived a largely recursive life in Amherst, Massachusetts. She wrote nearly 1800 poems. ये पूछा जाता है. 7 poems were published during her lifetime and the rest were discovered after her death. Only 7 were published when she was alive, and rest of the poems discovered after death, and published often without her consent and with heavy editorial changes. Remember, many of her poems do not have any titles. So the titles majorly is the first line of the poems, which is longer than any other title you will observe. And she is now considered one of the founders of modern American poetry. Poems by Emily Dickinson, 1890, first edited by Mabel Loomis, Todd and Thomas Wentworth Higginson. Second series 1891 and third series 1896. ये important है that complete poems by of Emily Dickinson 1955 edited by Thomas H. Johnson, and majorly the theme unconventional interior, modern, stress, trauma, suffering. And the one important thing that we find in the exam is Thomas H. Johnson 1955 restored Dickinson's original punctuation, capitalization, and dashes. So this is the PYQ asked. So majorly this type of technique we find in Emily Dickinson's work. Okay, so please do remember. The poems you have, Because I Could Not Stop for Death, 1863. I heard a fly buzz when I died. Okay, a bird came down the walk. There is a certain slant of a light. टाइटल ही नहीं थे. सो फर्स्ट वर्क उनका वही था. सक्सेस इज काउंटेस्ट sweetest. I am nobody. Who are you? I felt a funeral in my brain. Hope is the thing with feathers. These are the types of line of her poetry. Chronology में है ये. Now American realism. So इसमें आपके आ जाएंगे विलियम डीन हॉवेल्स, father of American realism, Henry James, psychological realism and international theme, Stephen Crane, naturalism without battlefield experience, Frank Norris and Fraser, strongest American naturalist. Now let's discuss about Mark Twain. So Mark Twain's real name is, ये आपका PYQ है, पूछा गया है कि मार्क ट्वेन का रियल नेम क्या है. So Samuel Langhorne Clemens, and also who was associated with regional and local color writing, called the father of American literature and pioneer of vernacular realism. The work you must not miss: The Innocent Abroad, 1869, Roughing It, The Gilded Age, Adventures of Tom Sawyer, very important, Prince and the Pauper, Life of the Mississippi. So Mississippi is the setting. Majorly you are going to find in Mark Twain's work. Then you have the work Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, 1884. There is a word nigger. So this word used frequently in this work to describe the racial identity, racism. So there was a controversy in this work. So please, whenever you are going to find this work, not you can go to the Tom Sawyer, but it is in Huckleberry Finn you are going to find majorly. So it is said that it is a sequel of Tom Sawyer. Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. A first person narration we have here, Huck Finn, the protagonist. Mississippi River is the setting here. Huck Finn is the narrator character. Jim is the character who is an enslaved African American. And Tom Sawyer, romantic imagination, and Widow Douglas was a social discipline. These are the characters. This is often called the Great American Novel. Banned initially for language and subject. So language, I told you the term nigger. So please do remember. First major American novel written in vernacular speech, and Jim is portrayed as morally superior to white society. So Jim is the character here who represents nigger, जिसके लिए ये टर्म बार बार यूज किया गया हुआ है many times. That's why इस पे controversy हो जाता है. यहाँ पे मेंशन भी किया हुआ है नेगर और निगर. नेगर और निगर सेम है. So nigger in Adventures of Huckleberry, the word nigger appears frequently in Huckleberry Finn. It reflects 19th century American vernacular and racist discourse. So that is not helpful for the author and the work. That became a controversial part. तो इतना तो आप लोगों ने प्रिपेयर किया ही होगा. Henry James, American realist novelist and critic, okay, known for psychological depth, complex narrative technique. ये वर्क आपका आता है डेजी माइलर 1878, अमेरिकन, रॉड्रिक हडसन, पोर्ट्रेट ऑफ द लेडी, टर्न ऑफ द स्क्रू, एम्बेसडर्स, गोल्डन बाउल. ये आ चुके हैं ऑलरेडी. So any of them can they ask. Next one you have is Stephen Crane. So Stephen Crane was pioneering American naturalist. In पे आते हैं questions whose work depicts human beings as controlled by environment and instinct and chances. Okay, so please do remember Darwinism and determinism. Naturalist writer influenced by Darwinism and determinism, majorly associated with the, so please the concept he is associated. Remember the word Maggie, a girl of the street, red badge of courage, the open book, which is a short story. Ernest Hemingway, one important concept related with Ernest Hemingway. Ernest Hemingway, American modernism, okay, modern American literature के part है. So he is known for concise prose, iceberg theory, and minimalism. Ernest Hemingway, focusing on war, masculinity, disillusionment, and existential struggles. Lost Generation, he popularized with the term coined by Gertrude Stein, remember, Lost Generation. So modern American की part है modern literature के तो यू कैन रिमेम्बर और ये वर्क इनके और द सन ऑल्सो राइजेस 1926 ये सारे आपके आते हैं द ओल्ड मैन इन द सी फॉर whom the bell tolls and the farewell to arms sun also rises. The Sun Also Rises has a section. So, structural division on the basis book 1 explores the expatriates in Paris post-war disillusionment. Book 2 explores the travel to Spain, bullfighting festival, romance and betrayal. And book 3 climax in Pamplona, Jake's struggle with love and purpose. Iceberg theory demonstrated in The Sun Also Rises, most meaning is implied beneath the surface. So, in the work Sun Also Rises, you are going to find the concept iceberg theory. Concise prose minimalist. So, minimalism stylic hallmark throughout his works, especially The Sun Also Rises. So, both you are going to find in The Sun Also Rises. Lost Generation and Disillusionment, the same Sun Also Rises, war and trauma of farewell to arms and stoicism and heroic code old man in the sea. Okay, so he is majorly Ernest Hemingway is important for these concepts. Fitzgerald, F. Scott Fitzgerald, American modernist associated with jazz age, exploring wealth, decadence, the American dream, and moral decay. Okay, the side of paradise, beautiful and damn, Great Gatsby is the very important work. Tender is Night and the Last Tycoon. So Great Gatsby के highlight और इसके characters please do remember. Jay Gatsby. Jay Gatsby is a self-made millionaire idealist. Then you have Daisy Buchanan. This is the very repeated character, object of Gatsby's desire. Nick Carraway. This is also and Tom Buchanan. Nick Carraway is a narrator, reflective moral center, and Tom Buchanan is a wealthy, arrogant antagonist. So Jay Gatsby, Daisy Buchanan, Nick Carraway, and Tom. ये Buchanan in Great Gatsby by Fitzgerald you are going to find. Now William Faulkner. So William Faulkner associated with the modernist and a Gothic writer known for stream of consciousness, popularized experimental narrative and Southern culture, Southern Gothic. Sound and the Fury are the very important work of 1929. As I Lay Dying, Night in August, very important. Absalom and Absalom. Absalom and Achitophel, this is not Absalom and Absalom. Sanctuary 1931. William Faulkner was the one who created the fictional town Yokna Pratapa. Remember, Thompson, sorry, Ralph Allison's Invisible Man. ये आपके दो वर्क्स है इनविजिबल एंड इनविजिबल सो इनविजिबल मैन 1952 इट इज बाय राल्फ एलिशन पार्ट ऑफ मॉडर्न अमेरिकन लिटरेचर एंड जून 18th 1999 नाउ कुछ ही रह गए हैं आपके देन वी विल फिनिश आर्थर माइलर का देख लेते हैं, इनका वर्क एक इम्पॉर्टेंट है. सो आर्थर माइलर was a major American playwright, essayist known for exposing the moral failures of modern society. He defined tragedy for the common man. Remember the work of The Salesman, Death of a Salesman. Common man blending social realism with classical tragic form. He was politically engaged and famously married to Marilyn Monroe 1956 to 61, and his work critiques capitalism, conformity, and moral compromises in America. His works we have The Man Who Had All the Luck, All My Sons, and Death of a Salesman. This is important. Crucible, ये आता है आपके मैचिंग में. View from the Breeze, After the Fall, Incident and Vichy, The Prize, Creation of the World and the Business, Broken Glass. ये आता है आपका majorly Crucible, Death of a Salesman, All My Sons. So Death of a Salesman is a tragic work, modern tragedy, and in two acts. Requiem. Remember, setting is Brooklyn. Very important. Setting is Brooklyn. मैं कुछ भी बना रही हूँ. Major character, central character, we have Willie Loman. So Willie Loman, a failed salesman, believes in superficial success. He lives in illusion and memories. He has American dream. His son Biff and Happy struggle with identity. They do not work. They do not have their own identity. So there is something complexities in their family majorly going on. So Willie commits suicide, hoping insurance money will save his family. So at the end of the work, this is the decision, no, hamartia, the error of judgment. He took the decision that once he will die, the insurance money will save his family. So it is a failure of the American dream based on illusion versus reality, identity crisis, capitalist exploitations, father-son conflict. There are a lot of remember the characters: Willie Loman, tragic protagonist; Linda Loman, loyal wife; disillusionment; Biff Loman, disillusioned son; Happy Loman, conformist son; and there is one character Ben, symbol of material success, who was a friend of Willie Loman. Okay, so he holds all the character, no, all the characteristics of tragic hero. Ordinary man, not noble born. He has tragic flaw, blind faith in success, suffers moral conflict, ends in self-sacrifices. So it is explained in Tragedy and the Common Man 1949 in the work. So in Death of a Salesman is mentioned. उनसी के वर्क को इसमें डिस्क्राइब किया गया है. क्रूशिबल भी आपका इम्पोर्टेंट है. Remember the characters from the work Crucible: John Proctor, moral hero; Abigail Williams, manipulator; Elizabeth Proctor, integrity; and Jude Donforth, authoritarian law. All My Sons, then that's it. Robert Frost की poem. So major work Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. We have so many. सारे नहीं है. यूजीन ओनील का वर्क देख लीजिए प्लीज. Who was a founder of modern American drama, Eugene O'Neill, art of absurd theater. Okay, psychological realism, tragedy, experimentation, realism, expressionism. All the works are important. लिखा हुआ है यहाँ पे. Beyond the Horizon, The Emperor Jones, Anna Christie, Hairy Ape, Morning Becomes Electra, The Iceman Comet, and Long Day's Journey into Night. ये सभी वर्क आ चुके हैं. So that's why it is written all work important. Beyond the Horizon 1920, The Emperor Jones 1920, The Hairy Ape. कितने सारे वर्क्स हमें इसमें मिल गए 1920 The Wasteland. If you know, comment. Beyond the Horizon 1920, Emperor Jones, Anna Christie 1921. Now let's see something about Sylvia Plath, confessional poetry majorly associated with the Colossus. The Colossus 1960, Ariel 1965, published posthumously. Include in this work Ariel, Lady Lazarus, Daddy, Tulips, types of poetry collections. The Bell Jar 1963 published under pseudonym Victoria Lucas. Okay, Victoria Lucas. Walt Whitman, father of American free verse, celebrating democracy, body, self, nature, period, and moment. Walt Whitman. Okay. So Leaves of Grass 1855 extended till 1892. Leaves of Grass is a very important. In this collection, Songs of Myself, I Sing the Body Electric, When Lilacs Last in the Dooryard Bloomed, Drum, then remember all these you're going to find in the work Leaves of Grass 1855 and Drum Taps and Democratic Vistas. One of also important, Oh Captain, My Captain, also in which he has mentioned and at he is attributed the work to the that time. What who was the president of America that time? Oh, Captain, my Captain. Captain is the name. Captain is the name. I forget. Maybe I would have mentioned here. Oh, Captain, my Captain. उसको मैं कैसे भूल गई? क्या नाम है everybody? Please comment. The name is very like अच्छे थे वो president अमेरिका के ना तो वो उन्हीं को डेडिकेटेड है ओ कैप्टन माय कैप्टन वर्क प्लीज रिमेम्बर इन अमेरिका अब हार्लेम रेनेसा आ जाता है तो इन हार्लेम रेनेसा टोनी मॉरिसन इज लीडिंग फिगर सो टोनी मॉरिसन्स द ब्लूएस्ट आई पेकोला ब्रीडलव इज द सेंट्रल कैरेक्टर सूला सॉन्ग ऑफ सोलोमन ये भी सारे इंपॉर्टेंट है इनके बी लव इट all the work Bluest Eyes, Sula, Song of Solomon, Beloved, Jazz 1992, Paradise Lost, sorry, not Paradise Lost, only Paradise 1997, Love 2003. Beloved के कैरेक्टर्स इंपॉर्टेंट है सेट वह बहुत बार आ चुका है Beloved, ओके डेनवर एंड पॉल डे सेट एंड Beloved द वर्क Beloved itself. Alice Walker, थर्ड लाइफ ऑफ ग्रैंड कॉपल मेरिडियन कलर पर्पल एक वर्क इंपॉर्टेंट है ये एलिस वॉकर ये एपिस्टलरी नॉवेल है फोकस ऑन द लिबरेशन ऑफ ब्लैक वुमेन दैट इज व्हाई दिस वर्क इज इंपॉर्टेंट कलर पर्पल बाय एलिस वॉकर एंड सेली इज द प्रोटैगनिस्ट नेटी शग एवरी एंड मिस्टर एल्बर्ट Langston Hughes Harlem Renaissance The Very Blues Fine Clothes to the Jew Montague of Dream Deferred and Not Without Laughter. Zora Neale Hurston from the Harlem Renaissance, their eyes were watching God, mules and men, dust tracks on a road, and Jonas Gard. So I hope you all have prepared everything now. So this is the final revision of world literature among County Cullen, Harriet Jacob. These are the minor writers. Richard Wright, Native Son, Black Boy, James Baldwin, Go Tell It on the Mountain, The Fire Next Time, Maya Angelou's work, remember, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, 1969. That's it. So finally, Indian literature, Caribbean literature, American literature, Australian literature, Canadian, Caribbean, Nigerian, African, world literature along with Indian. We have finished. So please do subscribe the channel, everyone. I'm too tired now. You do please practice and all the very best for your exam. Last moment पे सुबह सुबह if you are going to appear for your exam, do not practice, do not see anything. Just pray to God. I will pray for you and keep revising. Last today only take a deep sleep, good nap, good sleep. Actually, not a deep, good sleep, so that every your mind will rest in peace. You need peace, not rest in peace. You need peace, and everything will fresh appears in your mind. Okay, thank you so much for joining. If any of you are preparing for December 2026, you can subscribe the channel, and you want time to time guidance, support, you want any resources, material. Many of already members have joined. They have been practicing since the channel started, and many of the parts of premium group, general group, and now WhatsApp. Okay, so please do connect and stay, subscribe, share, and all the best. Take care of yourself. Good luck and bye bye.